Welcome back to another episode of the Backlog Breakdown. This is a video game podcast where we seek to encourage and equip the church to engage the medium wisely and responsibly. I'm your host, Josh, and with me today is not my co-host, but he is my brother in Christ, Wesley Rea, the Henshin Dad himself. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm just happy that you clarified, where my salvation lies. I know that you work in ministry and that you have, certain superpowers therein that lies with your station. And I was just feeling a little bit vulnerable there for a bit because I was like, oh man, what does he think of my salvation? I'm very concerned about this. So, but thank you for introducing me properly.
I'm glad I could assure you of your salvation.
Yes.
There.
I mean, here's the thing. You have two Baptists together and things can go sideways, just depending on which way you're leaning on that Protestant aisle. I get that. But, man, I'm just so glad there's agreement in, obviously the most essential issue of baptism here.
Yes.
Clearly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Grape juice and
Dunking.
Wait till they're 25.
25.
Just to be extra safe.
Right? No,
yes.
Right, exactly.
If they can't finish college, come on.
Yes. Well, very grateful to have you on. And in fact, so the reason that you are here in lieu of Nate is not the typical reason of, oh, Nate can't be here, he's got life going on. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what we're going to be covering today. And actually, you know what? This is episode 189, and I thought that was very apropos to the game Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because it takes you about 189 hours to get through the entire game. Not really. I think I only put in like 90, something like that. And you use your wizard magic to get through it in what, 20?
40. 40 exactly.
40. Okay. That's about baptismal.
Right
age,
on the
so
dot. Exactly. Yeah.
Like that you can,
yeah.
It's
and we
old
dunk
enough
6
to be
feet down.
baptized.
6 feet down into the tank.
Yes, none of that sprinkling nonsense. Anyways, we're talking Xenoblade Chronicles 3 today. Nate has not played the game and so did not want to take part. Well, actually, I don't think I even actually asked him if he wanted to take part. I just assumed he wouldn't because we're talking spoilers, and I don't want to spoil him on the meat of this game, which spoilers will come later. That's not all we're talking about, so stay tuned even if you haven't played it so that you can get a little bit of our thoughts and ideas on it. We will fully warn you before we hit spoilers. But before we talk about the video game itself, we do have a few forums that we like to hold down the fort. And because Nate isn't here, just to honor him as my co-host, as my brother, as my friend, Wes, I have to ask you. It's been a while since you've been on the podcast. You did the bite sized on Mega Man, which was awesome. Sorry, we didn't get you on the Mega Man X episode.
Oh my gosh, I am still mad. I'm like seething angry right now.
Oh no. Well, maybe we'll have to schedule something else out and we can do a Mega Man X2 episode. A sequel to Mega Man X episode. A Mega Man 10 episode. I don't know.
Mega Man 10 2.
Right, yes.
Just like Final Fantasy 10 2. There you go.
The one where you dance. But since it has been a while since you've been on a main episode, I have to ask you, Wes, how has it been?
Wow, that like just destroyed my ears. Holy cow.
I
did not expect it to be that loud. It's not that loud on the recording, so. Oh boy, how has it been? Let me tell you. Well, for those who don't know, I am going to be moving from the blessed land of Oregon, the end point of the Oregon Trail with our prairie wagons and our, what do you call those? Buffalo chips and all that fun stuff. And I'm moving back down to California so that we can be closer to family. And while it is difficult to go into such a difficult mission field, practically a third world country at this point, especially in the last week. Absolutely.
Yay.
It is interesting. I finished up my last day with students today at my current school that I've been at for about 8 years. And there are plenty of tears around. Not me, of course, because I have absolutely zero emotions, period. But because I'm a man. I am a manly man. And I don't cry. Ever.
Never.
But, I mean, it got a little dusty in there. I won't lie. But saying
Mm.
goodbye to students that I've been seeing for the last several years, and
Yeah.
some that are like nearly done with high school, and it's like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this is happening. And now I'm going to establish myself at a new school, and the whole cycle can start over again.
Right. Yeah.
But I as difficult as it's going to be to move back to California, I will say the school that I landed at, I am like probably the luckiest guy in the world to be landing this particular position. It is
Okay.
like as close to like it's functionally like it's a public charter school
Okay.
in the same sense as like it's basically a private school that kids that can't, afford private school,
Hmm.
you know, would be able to go to. So it's nice that my students will, not be like, totally bougie and like pish posh, upper crust of society, that sort of thing. And apparently there are actually standards at the school, like actual dress code standards, which we don't
Okay.
actually have here in Oregon, apparently, because we were told that we can't actually enforce a dress code. But I digress.
Gotcha.
So
Hmm.
there's just a lot of good stuff happening, plus a lot more money, plus family, nearby that we can stay with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't like the fact that it's going to be like 110 degrees like all summer.
Whoa.
But that's like Texas like status, and I'm not looking forward
Yeah.
to that part. So,
Yeah. Man. Oh man.
but
At least I'd assume it would be a little drier than Texas. But anyways.
possibly, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
it's near the forest and everything, so we'll see how it goes.
okay.
But
Okay.
it's
Huh.
bittersweet day, very
Yeah.
apropos for the game that we're talking about, as you
Yeah,
mentioned to
man.
me. And we'll see if we can get out of this without any tears, because we are men,
Yes. Yeah.
Baptist men.
Especially, I mean, look, if your child is being born, then you can shed a tear. That's totally fine. But a video game, come on. When has a video game ever made you feel anything?
except
Come on.
except rage.
I mean, come on. Yeah, that's true. That happens too. Now that we're men, we can do anything. Hey, you actually know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Very nice,
um,
very nicely done. Good
yeah.
reference. I'm sure Paul would get it too, if he was cool
You
enough to
think
actually
so?
play this game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, well, that's good to hear. I mean, bittersweet, definitely, but good that at least what's on the horizon seems like a really cool opportunity. So
Hmm.
that's pretty awesome. As far as with me, there's not too much that's happened since the last recording. So the most interesting thing that I could think of to talk about is the use of AI. That something that I've been doing lately. My arm, and I'm just old, some of the stuff, I've been trying to exercise more, but my arm has been hurting me quite a while. And I think I found out through the use of AI that it's something called tennis elbow, where I've got some pain in my wrist and up in my forearm and my elbow. But it's been helpful just to be asking AI, okay, I have these symptoms. What could this possibly be? And then kind of look into that stuff and then asking, what can I do to help alleviate the symptoms? Okay, it obviously throws out like stuff that I just don't care. Oh, ice it when it hurts. No, I'm not going to ice it when it hurts. Like, it's not swollen. I'm not going to do that throughout the day because it's just kind of randomly painful. But it gave me a list of exercises to do and how to do those exercises, and that has helped just kind of stretch out, you know, stuff. And so that's been really helpful. So, but I know it's not much, but like using some AI stuff. I actually just earlier today, because I have a Samsung cell phone, they gave me a year of Perplexity Pro for free. I was
Not
not
too
using
shabby.
Perplexity before that, but now I'll be using it.
Hmm.
And so our AI overlords will be taught by yours truly. Um,
Well, yeah. Number one, I didn't know you played tennis. That's really interesting. But
Me neither.
apparently you play tennis. Okay. Number two, I definitely feel like this is the best use case of things like AI. Like, full
Mhm.
disclosure, I've been using ChatGPT Plus ever since it came out with the Plus tier, and I use
Wow.
it
Okay.
basically daily
Yeah.
because I'm old enough to realize that I'm incredibly stupid. And with the help of technology, I can figure things out and actually like feel like I'm getting like smarter. It's
Mhm.
crazy. I know, but I use it basically like every single day. I'll take a picture of something. I'm like, what's this? Or when I'm,
Okay.
trying to come up with just random assignments in my classroom just to kill time for like 2 to 5 minutes. And it's like, what can I do here? Boom, 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 boom. Oh, there you go. And I feel like this has been like my most productive like school year ever because I'm just like
Nice.
making it a habit. People probably call me demonic for having that. I just call myself, stupid and I need it. You know, you have
No.
that
Yeah.
meme of the bell curve. I'm like right at the front there, but then you
Yeah.
have like the really, really smart IQ guy on the other side. And I feel like I'm right about there. Okay. And those AI deniers at the top, they're just,
Right.
they're crying and seething and coping.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I have you. I mean, I use ChatGPT probably at least a few times a week. Um, you can. I was going to say crucify me, but that's probably not the right term that I should say. But you can
Unalive.
be yeah, right. You can be angry at me. You can be upset at me, but I do use it uh, fairly frequently for research purposes in my job at the church. So,
Hmm.
like, if I want some Bible verses on a certain topic, and I don't, it doesn't immediately come to mind, like, I'll just jump on ChatGPT and ask, hey, can I have some Bible verses on this certain thing? And it's really helpful because it gives me a list of verses. And then I go and I look those up because I recognize, like, hey, it could hallucinate. It could be pulling stuff out of context because it's probably pulling from a blog online, and who knows what the writer of this blog actually understands about, but it's useful as like a research assistant, like
Hmm.
it's just someone who can do some grunt work for me, and then I double check everything, and I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything wrong with that. um
And I
you
feel
know
like one of
I'm
the best use cases is like document analysis, where you have like a hundred
okay.
page to 200 page document, or you have like an ebook of some sort, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, help me understand this because I don't understand this." And it's just like,
Hmm.
"Oh, this makes sense on page blah 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 blah. At this point, it talks about this, and this means this." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really helpful.
Nice.
Thank you. I
Nice.
feel smarter already."
Yeah. And what is it? Is it Notebook LM that like
Yeah.
creates the podcasts?
Hmm.
Maybe I should do that. What I should do is I should start taking our old episodes and and getting the transcript of it, feeding it to ChatGPT, telling it to break it down, and then giving that to Notebook LM and have it create a podcast so that our podcasts are not 4 hours long anymore.
See, I did that with your top 100 list, and it was
That's
a
right.
riot. It was so funny. You should release that on
Oh
the feed
man.
sometimes when you need a bite size.
Oh, that's a great idea. Oh my goodness. Yes. I love it. The AI slop. And you know what? The AI slop keeps on coming because as we progress through the podcast, we have some experiences to share.
We hit record and let it roll, trading stories like Pokeball. Laughing loud till the mics might break. In this where we're making no mistakes. As we share, we'll level it up. Life's an adventure, we can't get enough. From Meridian to Paradise, where we're growing together with XP Share.
That's right. We have some experiences to share with some other media, other types of media like books and films and video, and not video games, but things along of those natures that we'd like to share with you and with each other. So Wes, obviously, because it's been a while, I'm sure that you've had a lot on the docket. But what have you been into lately? What would you recommend? What would you like to share with everyone?
Well, in terms of media, I will say that for the most part, a lot of the things I've been reading lately and kind
Hmm.
of digesting is pretty controversial stuff. So I'm not really going to get into that too much.
Okay,
But I'm part of
that's fair.
like at least three different, I don't even know anymore. Like I think three different book groups on some more interesting material, and it's been really
Okay.
nice to actually be able to meet with guys like regularly, like finally get into a weekly rhythm where I can actually meet with guys
Hmm.
and talk about a particular book or some chapters of books or even a video that we're watching. And that's been great, and again, bittersweet because that's all going to have to go to the wayside as I move to a completely
Yeah.
different state. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, and it's been really fun making a couple new friends there. So media wise though,
It's awesome.
basically nothing. I've just been watching the LA riots for the last week, and
Mm.
it is something. It's crazy that we live in a day and age where we can just have this automatically streamed from like 1,000 different phones and see
Yeah.
things happening in real time. I'm not going to get political about it. It's just really interesting to see where we're at. So
Mhm. Mhm.
there you go. That's literally it in terms of like, watching and reading stuff. So kind of
Gotcha.
boring.
Gotcha. Are you anywhere close to LA? Is that where you're gonna be? Excuse me.
Oh heck
Or is
no.
it like northern?
You couldn't pay me enough.
Okay.
It's more
I
Northern
didn't think
California.
so. I
The
was just
nice
curious,
part.
like, okay, yeah, like what the proximity, how much that's gonna
Mhm.
affect you. Obviously, just because of the state, like, there's
Yeah.
some policies that are gonna affect you, but in terms of LA itself,
No.
no, it's pretty
My
far.
parents are only like a couple hours away and they haven't seen
Okay,
anything. Like
okay,
they've been
yeah,
seeing basically nothing. So it's all
cool,
good.
cool, nice. Well, that is good. I don't have too much to share either. Well, I guess in the previous episodes, I've talked about some stuff that I've been reading. C.S. Lewis, going through the Great Divorce again. I did dip into The Abolition of Man, which is just some essays that he wrote. So, like, it kind of a combination of a few essays that culminate on each other. So it's like I wouldn't call it a book because it's so short. That said, I haven't finished it, but I've been listening to lectures on it, if that makes sense. And so that's been interesting. Again, Lewis just has this way of understanding. I think he just understands the human condition in a way that makes a lot of his writing feel very timeless, because some of the issues that he addresses feels like it's directly applicable to some of the stuff going on
Yeah.
nowadays and the things that people believe, especially so the abolition of man, talking about the the, if you have subjective morals, he kind of builds this argument that it kind of denies your you cannot build any kind of morality without having the objectivity in there, some sort of objective morality.
Hmm.
And so, anyways, he just kind of digs into that throughout it, and so it's been really good. I would recommend it. I like it. I enjoy it. Yeah, there's some. You use the term controversial. Obviously, Lewis had some views, that were kind of out there, kind of weird, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
I mean, okay in the sense of, like, it's not enough that I don't read him because I do like him. But
I do have to say,
Mhm,
as I've gotten, I don't know, I don't know if I could say more mature, in my
mhm.
faith or anything like that, but as I can like ponder back to like when I first started to get into like theological issues, it's like Lewis is kind of a cycle. It's like you
Yeah.
start out and you're like, wow, where's this guy been my whole life? He's great. And then as you get like a little bit more theological, what is it, acumen, a little bit
Yes.
more
Yeah.
knowledge, and you're just like, oh, ooh, I don't like that. I'm not so sure about that little statement right there. That
Right.
chapter in that book's a little bit weird. But then
Mhm,
now I'm kind of finally coming back to like, I started liking him, started being like, he's kind of overrated, that sort of thing. He's the Final
mhm.
Fantasy VII of theologians. And now I'm getting back to the point where I'm just like, oh, you know what? Actually, I was kind of dumb as a teenager. And, you know, and when I got to college and I was like, obviously super, super smart. But now I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm actually liking more of his stuff again. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to keep cycling back like that for me.
Sure.
But I think I've just kind of gotten to the point where I'm just like, you know what? He's got some issues. Who doesn't at this point? Like,
Mhm.
you got to figure that sort of stuff out and just
Yeah.
use a certain level of maturity to suss it out. So,
Right.
but he's cool.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Yeah. Yep. So I've been on a little bit of a kick with Lewis lately, and I've been enjoying it. But that's really all the only experience that I have to share is the abolition of man. Not too much going on outside of that. But we are a video game podcast, and so it would be remiss if we don't discuss a little bit of video games. So, Wes, in the interim since the last you've been on, are there any games that you've played that you'd like to highlight or anything like that?
Well, speaking of Final Fantasy VII, that was an amazing segue, wasn't it? It
Nice. I love
was
it.
so
I love
good.
it.
So good. So since my family has been down in California for like the past, 2 to 3 weeks and everything, they're going
Mhm.
ahead and moving things there and figuring things out while I'm kind of here by myself finishing up my job. I'm like, hey, you know what I haven't played in a while? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I beat
Mm.
the game back when it first came out
'Kay.
and absolutely loved it. Every
Okay.
second of
Yeah.
that game is absolutely beautiful. And
Wow.
one day, I'm going to force you and Nate to actually like reckon with the fact that while Final Fantasy VII itself, as the PlayStation game, and you can add the compilation stuff with it,
Mhm.
is overrated in a lot of ways. The remake trilogy, the remake and rebirth so far, are an improvement in every single way, and
Okay.
they are some of the best Final Fantasy experiences that I think you can have.
Okay.
It's amazing. So I've been cleaning
Hmm.
up trophies on that game, and just hearing the music and the amazing like open world gameplay loop that they suck you in, where you're like discovering more of this planet that you learn little bits about in the original game, but you're really digging into like the nitty gritty of all of their like lore and legends, and things that weren't necessarily clear in the original game are like really, really like starkly portrayed. And they're
Okay.
going about it in such an interesting way to where it's not just a remake, but it is a sequel, but of the same game.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to explain, and I've been watching a lot of videos about it recently too, because I have actually like 3 hours to like burn just listening to good YouTube videos.
Mhm.
And the more I dig into it and what the directors are trying to do with this trilogy, the more I'm just like, this is actually like I feel like a seminal moment in gaming history that we are witnessing. I don't want
Okay.
to like overplay it, but I feel like what they are accomplishing with remake and rebirth and whatever the third game is going to be, I think it's actually going to be like as soon as that last part of the trilogy comes out, we're going to look back on these and be like, oh, that's what they were doing from the beginning. That's what they were trying to
Mm.
actually tell us. And the through line through will be a lot more clear. And
Okay.
I'm telling you guys, like, I get it. It's Final Fantasy VII. I get it. But there's only been 2 games in the last like 5 to 10 years that I felt really, really emotional about. And it
Mm.
is Xenoblade 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. What
Okay.
they accomplish in these games is unbelievably good.
Hmm.
And I feel like you guys owe it to yourself to at least give it a try. Give it
Yeah.
a try. If for nothing else than the beautiful music. I mean, because the
Okay.
music, there's like 300 tracks in the second game of all of
Oh.
that good, like, Uematsu music. And
Hmm.
there's remixes of it and redone versions. And it's like, oh, chef's kiss. So good.
Hmm.
I wish I could spoil it, but I can't because it's like one of those things that have to be experienced.
Yeah.
So,
Would it require a playthrough of the original version though? Like in order
of the PS1
to
game?
understand it better? Yeah.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Really? Not at
I've
all.
heard about people that are going into Final Fantasy Remake completely blind, absolutely no knowledge of anything Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
And they are just like, this is amazing. These characters gel so well together. They have actual
Mhm.
conflict. And you can see this like budding romance between like Cloud and Tifa, but then Aerith is also there. And
Mhm.
they do such a good job with these character moments and
Okay.
just utilizing what they have to such good effect.
Mhm.
And the original Final Fantasy VII story was definitely not like, planned out like too well, or at least portrayed well in, the English version. So this
Okay.
is kind of like their way of making up for that and like really bringing you in. Like it explains
Mhm.
everything you need to know. And there are
Okay.
things from the original game that I'm like, oh, was that what they were going for? Oh, okay, that makes more sense now. Looking
Mm.
back on it, it's like, oh, okay, it was just a terrible translation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
now that you guys have a Switch 2 and Remake is coming out on the Switch 2, I feel
That's
like you
right.
guys owe it to yourself. You gotta try it. You
Yeah.
gotta try it.
May-
You're just like passively like, nah,
maybe I
nah.
will. Well, no, I'm not, I actually don't have like a huge I'm not super against it. I do think at some point like I have been thinking or at least considering of playing 7 in the original version cuz you can speed it up nowadays. But there's also a part of me that's like I'm probably going to like it even less. Like there's part of me that wants to experience it because I know so many people that do really like it. But it also kind of feels like a time and a place, like it won't have the same impact just because I'm so far removed from that. Like I remember the last time I tried to play it, which was a long time ago,
Mhm.
probably a decade ago, just being like, I can't get invested in these Lego characters. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't like it doesn't translate. So, but anyways, I don't have like a visceral disgust for 7 the way that I do for 8.
Oh, seriously.
The
Yeah. Same.
But I mean, there's a number of different, like how long it's going to take, all that stuff is in there. But no, I mean, I am certainly open to it. I'm not anti Final Fantasy 7. And I think what you were talking about of, like the cycle of C.S. Lewis, I do feel like I'm on the other end of that with Final Fantasy 7, where like I wanted to buck against the trend of, oh yeah, it's super overrated, so it's probably not that good. And I didn't enjoy what I played, so it's probably not that good, because I never finished it. And now I'm kind of like, well, it might be good, and it's not like, and frankly, your recommendation, that is, I count that very highly, especially after playing Xenoblade 3. But in general, because you are one to tell me when a game is garbage, but fun like good garbage, like just
Exactly.
utter trash, but enjoyable. And I've taken some of those recommendations and like, yeah, I mean, like even this, it's not complete garbage, but like Taiko no Tatsujin, like that series, I love that series. And is it like, yeah, deep and meaningful? No, not at all. But also, like, it's shown me a bunch of Japanese bands that I actually like a lot, because of that. So, anyways, I'm saying that your recommendation, I take that to heart. So, yeah, I'm not going to go out and buy it tomorrow because I have so many games to play. But like you said, it's on Switch too, so that definitely pushes up a little bit higher.
I would at least say, just try Remake out when it comes out
Yeah.
on Switch 2. I will personally fund, this is my challenge to Nate as well, I will personally fund a purchase of a Switch 2 version of Final Fantasy Remake and even eventually Final Fantasy Rebirth. Like, I will dig deep into my wallet and just, there you go. And you know what? If Paul or Nick want to play it too, because they're other, Pwnecast members, I will buy it. I will buy that for you. Please. Please, guys.
Now you're getting into some dangerous territory.
I heard Micah really likes it too, Nate.
Oh, there you go.
So if that helps.
Yeah.
But anyway, other than Final Fantasy 7,
yes,
Bravely Default on Switch 2 is amazing. It's fantastic.
Ooh.
It is definitely my patron pick for next year.
Nice.
I heard you guys on the previous episode talking about like the speed up functions. You can actually speed up cutscenes too, is what I discovered. So you can actually play them at double speed. So that's kind of nice. I think you lose the voice acting if you do that, but that's okay. I think you usually play with Japanese voices anyway. So
yeah,
even though the English voice acting is fantastic, and they did such a good job like remastering the audio because it is so crisp, and you can hear so many more like points in their performance. You're like, oh, they really went for it like during this like point in the game, and I just didn't notice it because it was on the 3DS. But it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect. How have you? I'm only asking this because you're Wes. Have you finished it?
No, I'm only 2.5 hours into it.
Okay.
I am literally at the sand area, the first crystal.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Cool. Just curious about that ending portion that everyone knows if you played the game, what that's like. That's all. So I'd be curious to know when you get there, in like 3 days, what that's like.
Exactly. Yeah. It'll actually be 3 days ago, and I'll time travel.
Yes. Yeah. Well, As the Fairy Flies, that's a good game. That's a good game. I do like some Bravely Default.
So good.
Yeah, man. All right. Any other games you want to talk about, discuss?
No, just got to Switch 2. Mario Kart's fun, but I don't have anybody play with it right now, so I'm just like, oh, I'm playing by myself. Mario Kart. This is so sad. I don't know what to do.
I can totally see that. Like, I remember jumping in hard to the Wii U, Mario Kart 8 when it came out, and doing all that single player because I hadn't done that in like a Mario Kart game before that, and really enjoying it. But it's such a different experience like now because like I think I've played the open world, the roaming whatever for maybe 10 minutes total since I've gotten it. Everything else has been with my kids, and so it's been an absolute blast. And it's all been 50cc in the races, so I'm kind of like, I want to get better at this, but whatever. But just the fact that it's with the kids, so
Hmm.
it's just a totally different experience. I could see getting like, okay, you do a Grand Prix, maybe 2, and then it's like, okay, I kind of
Yeah.
want to play something else. Makes
Like
sense.
I told Paul, I literally bought this system for Bravely Default. I do not care what else comes out. I really don't. $500 to play Bravely
That's
Default on a
awesome.
modern system? Great. This is
Deal.
how much I like this game. And you know what? I will stand by
That is
that. I am
awesome.
okay with that. I will spend my money how I need to spend it.
There you go. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, we're gonna do some talk on Switch 2 here eventually, or maybe we already have. Who knows? By the time this gets released, but there's definitely it's a weird place that I'm at where I pick up a console day one, but it's also weirder because this one is so similar to its predecessor, like the backwards compatibility and even the accessories that you can use. I'm using my Pro controllers on Switch 2. Like all of that makes the purchase worth it for me. Like if you don't own a Switch, I feel like it's a much more difficult, like I don't have very many reasons for you to get a Switch 2. But if you did own a Switch and like you own a bunch of games, then playing them on a Switch 2, it actually becomes more of a reason to get one, which is so
Especially
weird.
Zelda.
Yeah.
Especially Zelda.
Yeah.
And that Pro controller is so good. So
Oh,
good.
did you
I
get a
got
Pro
the
controller?
Oh, I went
Okay.
all out on this one. I got
Okay.
extra Joy-Cons, I got the charging grip, I got the Pro controller.
Nice.
I can't describe how good the sticks feel on the Pro controller.
Really?
They are
Okay.
smooth, buttery smooth. You know how like when
Okay.
you get the controller out, like this isn't the Pro controller, but you know how when you get a controller out and you just like to like circle your fingers around?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's like no friction as you're circling your fingers around
Hmm.
on this. And you know how like you get like these certain points of friction as you're doing that?
Yeah.
There's none. There's zero. It's
Hmm.
like ice skating.
Hmm.
Or when you're on a bike on a really, really smooth pathway. And
Yeah.
it's like just that amazing visceral feeling of it being like totally smooth.
Hmm.
It's so good. It's so good.
Nice.
That doesn't make any
Oh
sense. I get
man.
it, but
No, you're making me want one, dude.
worth
'Cause
it.
I know. Yeah. I know they're like slightly discounted at Costco too. So
Oh,
who
perfect.
knows? Maybe Father's Day's coming up, right? Or I mean,
Mhm.
Father's Day already happened after this release. Anyways,
The 4th of July happened too. 4th of July
yes.
sales.
Woo! America, baby. Buy some Japanese stuff. Anyways. I don't have much in terms of video games to talk about. Long Gone Days is the game that been putting some time into, that probably already talked about at this point. The only other game is the DLC for the game that we're talking about today, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The DLC is Future Redeemed, and I was not expecting it to go as hard as it does, as early as it does, and how connected it is to all 3 of the Xenoblade games. Let me tell you, man, it is crazy that something like this exists as a piece of media that is being sold, simply because, like, what kind of weeb degenerate plays all 3 Xenoblade games, dumps 300 hours into actually playing these games and wants to see 15 hours on how they all connect? Like, what the heck even is this? And I am loving it. So anyways, I'm not going to talk much about that because we have the main game to talk about. And so why talk about its
Although
DLC? Yes.
I will say with the DLC, I'm not going to spoil it at all, but I
Mhm.
love the fact that it's as soon as you load that DLC up, it starts you hard right there. Like you said,
Yep.
it is just like instantaneous. It's like, oh, you are playing this because we know you played the other 3 games. So
Mhm.
obviously we're not going to waste your time. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like
Here's a
Xenoblade
cutscene.
3 is a slow burn. This is a very, very fast like house explosion. That's a terrible analogy, but you know what I mean. This is a fireball.
I mean, because this isn't spoilers, because if you don't know, you don't know. It shows a cutscene with the protagonists of the previous 2 games and an antagonist from one of the previous game, like almost immediately upon opening it up. And it's just like, oh, okay. Like, it's not just referential. Like, no, they're literally like right here in front of you. Okay, here we go. So yeah, in that sense, I'm glad that I kind of waited, because as soon as I started playing this, I'm like, oh, I don't want to play anything else. Like, I just want to keep playing this.
Yep.
And part of that too is because, so it's been a year since I finished Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I've given it time to kind of simmer, to see if the how much I enjoy it is due to that recency bias or not. And I wanted a little bit of distance, but I'm sure if that's what I was going to say, is that it feels so familiar that it just feels like, oh man, like, sort of how comfort food is just delicious, like you just, as soon as that first bite you take, it's just like, man, yes, I know this flavor and I'm going to be enjoying this. That's how like the first few battles in this game is like, oh yeah, I remember this. It's been a year.
That's
But
right.
man, I remember this. So.
That orange chicken is so good.
Oh yes. Why can't I think of that style of noodle? The
Chow mein?
Sobu. Not sobu.
Soba?
What is it? Soba noodles. Yeah, the buckwheat.
Yeah.
Anyways, the thick noodles. Anyways, that's what we got. I think we're good. We're ready. We're getting ready to roll into our main discussion here of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Before we get to that, just a few things that you should be aware of. If you are enjoying what we do here and you'd like to support us here at the Backlog Breakdown, we do have a Patreon. Just think of it like a tip jar. We're not begging you, but if you want to contribute, you are welcome to do that. And there's some perks if you do that. We've got a whole separate podcast where we talk about whatever the heck we want to that you can listen to. You get early and uncut access to our podcast, to the things that we record. You get a special role in our Discord, and you help us shape the future of the podcast with game and topic recommendations. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to. That's patreon.com/the Backlog Breakdown. Also, we've got some friends like Wes here, who have their own podcasts. We've joined together to create the Play Well Network. So we've got a number of podcasts there, like Wes's Retronym podcast. And we think you should check that out. Go to playwellnetwork.com, say hi, check out some of these podcasts. And actually, we have a word from one of these podcasters. So here it is.
Word. Hey there, I'm Wes, and I run the Henshin Dad podcast. If you don't know what that is, well, it's a one-man show where I talk about all the things that you need to know about the tokusatsu genre from Japan. If you've seen shows like Power Rangers and Ultraman, then you've seen tokusatsu, and I just happen to think those types of shows are pretty cool. So come on over and take a listen as I discuss all the current and retro happenings in the genre. You can find it over at anchor.fm/Henshin Dad. I'll see you there, and don't forget, Henshin a go-go, baby!
And we're back. In front. I don't know what I'm saying. No, today we are talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the third game in the Xenoblade Chronicles series. But does it matter? Do you have to play the first two? I don't know. What even is a Xenoblade Chronicle?
What is a Xeno? I don't get it. This is like the 7th game in the series, to be perfectly honest.
Does it morph?
I don't know. Xenogear? Does it gear?
Is it a saga?
Yes. It is definitely a saga. We can say that for sure.
Phobias? I don't know.
This game deals with a lot of xenophobia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. It starts off at war between two factions. Anyways, this is the third game in the Xenoblade Chronicles series. They are. It is not required that you play the first two games in the series in order to play this one. However, they do. I'll put it this way. Upon finishing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I have played the other two in the series and the side story as well, the Xenoblade Chronicles X, it does not require you to play the first two games. I thought that the first two were referenced quite a bit. There were some characters that showed up that, I thought were kind of referential, but the connections get deeper, especially if you pay attention. They are much more connected than what is on the surface. However, you don't need to know those connections to enjoy the game, to enjoy its themes. Yes.
That being said, if you
Mm-hmm.
play Future Redeemed, it is 100% required that you play Xenoblade
Okay.
Chronicles 1 and 2.
There
You
you
do
go.
not want to go into that game having no clue who anybody is.
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah.
dangerous, dangerous game.
So Future Redeemed is the DLC for the game that was released. That does make the very strong connections. And I talked about this earlier. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm kind of giving that context, because I mentioned that's what I'm playing right now. So yeah, so that's kind of the caveat there, which I've heard, Wes, that the DLC is fantastic. So we'll see as I continue through it, which pretty crazy stuff. Anyways, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 released on July 29th of 2022. And I remember all the way back in 2022 when this game was announced. Was it an E3 announcement, or it was just a Nintendo presentation, kind of the
I
end?
want to
Were they
say
still
it
doing,
was a
it during
Nintendo
E3?
Direct,
Yeah.
but I think
And
during that E3 week, because I remember, I think I was listening to it in my car, actually, while I was like
okay.
driving somewhere, and I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah.
What's going on? But I couldn't watch it because it's dangerous and I don't break the law.
Yeah. And it did, you got the tone of like, oh, this is a bit more mature than, especially I would say, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is, I mean, mature in a different way, unfortunately.
Or
But it
immature.
also right. Yes, mature in a very immature way. But it is like, the protagonist in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is younger, more kind of starry-eyed, whereas this one's, a tale about war, and stuff like that. But anyways, I remember when it was first announced, when it swapped places with, was it Splatoon 3? Yeah, it must have been 3. I was about
Yeah,
to
I
say
think
2,
so.
but no, it was 3, because 2 was like really early in the Switch's life cycle.
Mhm.
And kind of, so it wasn't exactly a shadow drop, but it was like, hey, this game's coming out in 2 months,
Yeah.
which kind of blew my mind. And I was like, okay, then I need to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 now, because I had owned it at that point, but I hadn't actually played it. So played through that one, and then eventually you spoke very highly of this game. I dare I say it, you were influential in getting me to play this game. Not that I wouldn't have otherwise, because I do enjoy the series, despite all of the problems with the second game in the series. But I think we are both of the opinion that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the pinnacle of the Xenoblade Chronicles series. Yeah.
The tippy top. The
Mm-hmm.
top of the mountain. The king of the hill, you might even say.
Yeah, which is quite a feat for these games, because one of the things that these games kind of revels in is the worlds that they create, and the vast areas and expansive things that in the first game, you were traveling across a Titan is basically the world that you're on, which is pretty crazy. So, Xenoblade Chronicles, generally, these games themselves, they deal with, they tell sci-fi stories, and I'm stealing this from your notes here. Sci-fi, fantasy kind of stories, but they do have deeper philosophical themes and threads. They go much more sci-fi. They start more fantasy, I suppose, and they get more sci-fi as it goes on. Sometimes to the point where it's a little bit convoluted. You really have to kind of lock in, pay attention to figure out some of the things that are going on, because it seems like, well, all three of the games, there's kind of reveals on reveals on reveals, and it's kind of like turtles all the way down, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense, of everything that's actually going on. So there's a lot of YouTube watching for me to kind of clarify all the things that I missed about the games, because there's so much kind of writing that goes into it. I would say for better and for worse, because you could easily get lost. But there's a lot of thought that's kind of put into it.
Yeah. If I may make a
Yeah.
comparison to another pretty known game, I would say that the closest parallel to this type of game would be Final Fantasy XII. And what
Okay.
Final Fantasy XII does, like, not just with like the battle system and everything, which is very similar, and I think is one of
Okay.
the high points of 12, honestly.
Mhm.
I would say what Final Fantasy 12 does, like, politically, with its, like, talking about, like, the political structure at large there, this game
Mhm.
does with more philosophical concepts and the, like, idea of,
Okay.
like, power and chaos and what do men want to do when they rule the world, that sort of thing. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like diving into, like, similar themes in that regard, and I feel like it's just as, like, not just knee deep, but like shoulder deep, like over your head in many ways, to the point where, yes, YouTube deep diving is almost required.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're gonna miss stuff, and again, for better and for worse, these all the games in the series, but this one as well, they're huge, expansive games, and they take a long time to play through. We were just talking about how long just even the cutscenes are throughout the course of this game because there's so much story to tell, and it does it extremely well. I think, especially in Chronicles 3. Um, because there's so much world building and character moments that are happening all throughout the game, that there's huge payoff. But it does require quite an investment up front to play the game.
Mhm.
So it is, like I said, it is kind of geared towards a more mature audience, in that it starts, the game starts off and the world is at war. There are two factions, the Agnians and the Kavessians, I think. The
Questions, yeah.
Kavessi, I
Mhm.
think. And they are constantly at war. And when basically when one side kills someone from the other side, their energy gets sucked up by the other side so that they can continue living. And so and you learn that these characters, they only have a lifespan of 10 years. So whether if they die in battle, I mean, that's props to them because they were fighting for the rest of their people. But also, if you make it to 10 years old, then you're going to die. You're going to pass away at that point. So your entire life is built around being at war. And so you can only imagine what that would do to a person who's been kind of trained to to think in those lines. One is that you have extremely strong bonds between the people in your colony and your side, but also a very deep hatred for the people on the other side who are constantly fighting against you, and you're seeing people die left and right, whether that's just because they're 10 years old or whether that's because the battles that they're in and things like that. So that's kind of the opening premise. Again, there's a lot more to this game, but that's how it opens up, is you have this world at war. And so it puts you in the shoes of Noah, this main character, who in addition to fighting, he's an offseer, which means that he allows some of the people, and it's never fully explained. I still don't fully understand what exactly the point of his kind of seeing people off, because like they're
Well,
dead. What's
to
going
me,
on?
it almost seemed similar to Final Fantasy X, with Yuna being able
Mhm.
to, like, send the different souls of the people to whatever their concept of the afterlife was. I can't remember. I
Mhm.
want to say live stream, but it's not the live stream. What is it again? I can't remember. But it's kind of a similar idea in how she dances in order to
Mhm.
send those souls to peace, basically. That's what
Yeah.
he's doing as well, to the point where he even sees, he has some sympathy for the enemy in the fact that
Right.
he actually will be willing to, play his flute and send the souls of his enemies to a peaceful rest.
Mhm. Mhm. I do have to gush for just a second because you mentioned the flute. That's how he sees off the people who've passed away. The soundtrack in this game, a lot of it is based around the flute, and it's something that I did not take into consider. Like I didn't really notice that that was the case until a good amount into the game, of like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, of course, that's why it's featured so heavily, because there's all different kinds of music throughout the game. But that's why it's featured so heavily is because what your main character does, is play his flute, which is really cool, the way that they integrate both of those things. So, so that's kind of an over. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, can we back up a second and kind of set the
Yes,
format for the episode for everybody? So,
for sure.
because this is such a large game and there are
Mhm.
2 other games and really like 7 or 8 other games, if you know,
Right.
want to get that deep into everything, because there's so many games involved with this particular one and like there's so much story. What we're going to try to do is we're going to break it up into a completely non-spoiler section.
Mhm.
Obviously, the beginning is a little bit spoiled, but that's kind of what you need to do to set the premise and go from there.
Yeah.
But then that's going to take the first part of it, and then we'll have a pretty heavy spoiler section at the end. So if you have not finished this game and you think that you might actually want to do that, do not listen to the spoiler section at all, like whatsoever, because we are going to go for it, guys. We're going to go for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's not only on the one hand is I would not want to take away the impact of what this game does. I think especially of a very long cutscene within the game that is extremely impactful. I wouldn't want to take that away from you, as well as um, we're probably going to be speaking to those of you who have. We're going to be speaking in such a way that we're under the impression that you have already experienced some of these parts. So when we talk about that extremely long cutscene, we will be talking about it in a way that assumes that you know what we're
mhm.
talking about. Not that we won't explain ourselves, but that um, there's probably going to be something lost there if you haven't actually experienced it for yourself. So,
I agree. And then the second thing I wanted to mention,
mhm.
because I would be remiss if I did not do this for Paul, because Paul was very specific. He says, "Tell me what kind of game this is." So I'm going to be
Okay.
very specific and clinical about what this game is. This
Yes.
game is a Japanese role playing game. It takes place in a big, giant open world, like
Hmm.
even bigger than Breath of the Wild, if I recall correctly. It's
Hmm.
huge. It's huge.
Yes.
It's like real time walking and running to your different areas. And thankfully, you can get, fast travel really early on. It is a
Hmm.
not a turn-based. It's an active time role-playing game, very similar to Final Fantasy 12. Super similar battle system where
Okay.
it's almost like trying to mimic an MMORPG. So just had to
Hmm.
do that for Paul. Shout out to Paul. He's never going to play the game, but I wanted to make sure that he understood what kind of game it is. It is
Hmm.
not a rhythm game.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, it's interesting, man. I've never played Final Fantasy 12, so I don't know what that battle system is like. But I'm glad to hear that you have something that this game is very similar to. Because outside of the Xenoblade series, I haven't played anything like this. I haven't played MMOs. That's very intentional. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm glad that there is something to compare it to, because even some of the stuff that I've looked around online, um, again, makes me realize things that I didn't realize myself, and especially playing some of the DLC now that has a similar battle system, is while it is action based, it's all kind of real time. It's not turn based, but yet you are kind of waiting. It is more like
Hmm.
that active time battle system, because you're
Hmm.
waiting to when you can attack and then you
Yeah.
select those attacks.
The
And there
different
is
attack meters fill up as you are
right.
continuing to, because your character is actually going to automatically like fight against the enemy, and then you can trigger specific attacks once you've
Yeah.
filled up those meters. But your character can run around, it attacks the nearest enemy, and there's even like a semblance of like gambits at play, which is a Final Fantasy 12 type of thing. So
Mhm.
if that is your type of game, Paul, you should play it, but I digress.
Yes. You definitely should. Anyone, even if your name isn't Paul, you should play it
Hmm.
as well. Um, yeah, that's great. So, some of the things that we have here, just kind of for opening. Now that we've kind of set the premise, we've said what kind of a game that it is. I did mention obviously that this is the third game in the series, and so th- let's talk just a little bit about how it connects, or maybe how it doesn't connect to the first two games. Is there anything that kind of stands out to you about this being the third game in the series?
I mean, as the game begins, and this was similar with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you don't necessarily see many connections early on with previous
Hmm.
games. And so I feel like that's very much an intentional choice, because,
Hmm.
who wants to like jump into the third game and have like, 300 hours of gameplay and story material that you're missing out on? Then it's like all of a sudden, oh, wait, what's going on? I don't know what's going on here. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I mean, other than like mechanically what the game feels like, it all three games have a very similar battle system, and it's active while you're waiting for your meters to fill and everything, and you can exploit enemy weaknesses, that sort of thing. I can't really think of any like direct connections, because what's interesting is that Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is set on a world that has particular races, and then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has a world that has different races. And so like as you are playing those first two games, like nothing seems to like connect between them. But when
Right.
you get to the third game, all of a sudden all the races from the first game and all the races from the second game are kind of like all jumbled together. And what they do that's interesting between all three games is that they use very specific like European or English accents, like Australian, United States, Canadian, and then various like European dialects and accents. Very similar to how Dragon Quest has their different European accents as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Based on which race they are, but also like where they come from in the games. And to see all this stuff kind of jumbled together, if you're familiar with the first two games, you're immediately taken aback. You're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Why is that person over there with that person? That doesn't make any sense. So, but if you don't know, it's just like, whoa, who are these people? They have wings on their head? What the heck? They have wings on their head. This guy looks like a robot. What's going on here?
Yep.
So.
And it does not ever explain that in game. If you haven't played the other two games, you wouldn't even know. So like I was even familiar with those races, and I was kind of just like, okay, like it's honestly like it's not even a thing. Like people don't even recognize, how different they are necessarily. It's not like, oh,
it's played very straight, and nobody even notices.
Right. And I will say, being a big fat dummy, I didn't notice the distinction of different races within the Agnian side and within the Kavesi side. So you only have certain races that are Agnian, and those races are never Kavesi. And you have races that are only Kavesi and not Agnian. It didn't click until I kind of understood what the references were to. So, but they are references to races within the other two games. But yeah, that's a good connection that is deeper than it's more than it meets the eye. I'll put it that way. So some of the things that sticks out to me as I think about the connections with the other game, kind of the biggest thing for me, honestly, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, is that there are a lot of issues, particularly with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There are a lot of mistakes that game made that I mean, I'm at a loss to think of any that I feel like were missteps. I feel like almost all of the mistakes of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 are corrected in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. If you have played any of the other Xenoblade Chronicles games, you would know of a race of creatures called Napon. Okay? I was watching a YouTube video, and this guy was talking about, he's played all the games, and he said, when I started playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I decided that I was going to do a drinking game and take a shot every time a Napon said something stupid. And today I'm 12 years sober. And I was like, dang, that sums it up. Because they, Napon in every other, including Xenoblade Chronicles X, in every other Xenoblade game have been super annoying to me. And they're pretty great in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is, that's kind of the smaller end. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was just going to clarify. A Nopon, for those of you who are not familiar with this, a Nopon is like this little rabbit-y type thing. It's kind of like a cross between like Kirby and a rabbit.
Yes.
And they speak not necessarily like Yoda-like, but they speak without like particular like articles and everything. So it's like very jilted sounding, almost babyish or toddler-like. And for the most part, the ones in the first game, and I don't really remember any in the second game, but I'd have to go back and watch some videos. The ones in the first game were a little bit hard to deal with, especially since one was like a main party member, and it's like you have to deal with his stupidity the entire time.
Yeah, he thinks very highly of himself. Ricky,
Yes.
if I remember correctly.
Ricky. That's
Yeah.
what he sounds like.
So in the second game,
But he's like a dad of 12 kids, so.
right? Yeah, but he's also a little bit of a deadbeat dad.
Yeah, sure.
Not deadbeat, but like won't get off his butt.
Oh, there
and
is
do
one
stuff.
in the second game. Yeah, okay. I was
There
just
is
like,
one in the second game.
like, and that's where your ire comes from. I probably just blacked him out completely.
Yeah,
my mind.
I don't blame you. And that's actually another big issue with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, because he creates this robot. And
he builds his waifu.
Yes. Yeah, right. Exactly. And that kind of stuff is all throughout Xenoblade Chronicles 2, whether it's the outfits or just kind of the outrageous proportions of primarily the female characters. There's a good amount of just sexually suggestive material throughout Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has almost none of that whatsoever. Which is pretty amazing for a Japanese game in general, to be almost devoid of fan service. And it hit me as I was preparing for this episode that I remember early on in the game, within the first few hours, there's a shower scene in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And there is no hint of like sexuality at all in a shower scene in a Japanese game. Because
a mixed gender one too, specifically.
Right. And it's because these characters, they don't reproduce, like they die after 10 years. They're born in pods, sort of like the Matrix. So there's no sense that, males, females, like there are males and females, but like, okay, like there's nothing, they don't know what reproduction is. And so there's nothing in there. So even though I was like bracing myself as we go into the shower scene, like they're just talking while they're in like a hot tub or, someone has a towel
and nothing
on or
is
something
actually
like that.
seen. Like,
Right.
it's all, like headshots and that's pretty much it. And you know where they're at. They're in like the barracks, like bathhouse, basically.
Exactly.
And they just played the scene completely straight. And you're expecting one thing because anime, I like anime, but it definitely primes you to be wary of these types of like things in like Japanese media. But this was in a way a subversion of that because again, you're expecting something and you're just like, oh, that didn't happen at all. Interesting.
Yeah, it actually respects me, and it wants you to pay attention to these people as characters. Like, that's super cool. The last thing that I think about too, one of the problems with the previous game, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, is the tutorials. If you've ever played that game, they don't explain the battle system very well. I had to learn how to play the game from YouTube, basically. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 fixes that because it does throw a bunch of tutorials at you. It even has a whole section within the menu where you can redo tutorials and practice things, sort of like a training area.
That was my least visited area of the menu, let me tell you. I did not want to waste time trying to relearn stuff.
Right. And I mean, we might get to this later, is that overall I found Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to be pretty easy. And so there wasn't much tweaking that I had to do. There really wasn't much that I had to, I really have to understand this to play well. There were a few core concepts that I understood, and I kind of ran with it from there. So I didn't have to do that, but I was not confused like I was with the second game that just did a very poor job in just teaching you the basic mechanics of the game.
And the best part is that they have so many good quality of life features to where it's just like, if you do not want to like actually try to figure this game out, all the nitty gritty, you can, if you want, you can get into crafting type stuff. You can get into like all of this accessorizing thing, especially in the DLC. They open that up way, way more.
Okay.
But you don't have to. And I appreciate that this is a good dad game and that it respects your time. And if you want to get into something like really, really deeply, you absolutely can at any point in the game do that. Basically within the first hour, you can start crafting and doing all that crazy stuff, material gathering all over the world map. But if you don't want to, it just says, hey, do you want to equip the optimum like equipment for this? And I'm like, yes, please, all the time. Never want to try to figure these menus out. I don't have the time for that. I don't. That's what I love. And even an auto battle system where it's just like, hey, if you just do not want to like deal with these grunts on your own, just auto battle it, go for it. And I'm just like, yes, please, thank you, that's what I want.
Nice. I don't remember ever using auto battle myself, but I did primarily stick to, I see stuff on YouTube about, optimizing stuff and jumping around with different characters to make sure they do different things. And I'm like, oh, I rarely ever changed my main character
Yeah.
in the middle of battle. Like if they died, I remember watching a YouTube video that was like, oh yeah, like just switch to your healer and revive them. And I'm like, oh, you don't just wait for the computer to revive you? Like, oh, I forgot you could do that. So
wait, there's a healer on the party?
Yeah, right.
Who's that?
Hopefully.
I just bash with my sword every single time.
Exactly. Yeah. So speaking of bashing things with your sword, this game takes some big swings. There's lots of really big moments, whether that's just the deep themes that it tackles or kind of the deep story that goes down, like, oh, this happened because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. There's much more going on underneath the surface than it seems, which the surface stuff is good because it's character stuff. And you see people dealing with the repercussions of all the things that are underneath it. So it's all good, but it does continue to go deep. So I know we have here kind of in the notes, just in passing, I know you said it earlier, Wes, but one of the things about this game is what it makes you feel. We're men, and so we don't have much feeling, especially when we're playing video games. But because of the character building throughout the course of this game, you get to know these characters. Because of the way they set up, I think in particularly one of the antagonists in this game in particular, the way that he has set up is very impactful. And it's not like he's kind of hidden as to who he might be. But the
you guess it very early on.
yeah, like, it's it's kind of uncanny, his resemblance. However, the way that they kind of thread that needle and explain why it does kind of recontextualize not even necessarily some of the things that you have done, but some of the things that you possibly can do. And for me, it was very impactful to see. And we're not in spoilers yet, so I feel like I can't go any farther than that, except to say that throughout this game, I was surprised at how much of an impact multiple moments throughout this game had.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would 100% agree. And yeah, I'm not getting into like spoilery stuff yet. One thing we didn't mention about the conceit of the game is that because you are there's two different warring factions. What happens in this game at the beginning, and it's not really much of a spoiler to say because it's within the first hour or two, is that somehow a faction from the one army and a faction from the other army are thrust together and they are forced to work together. So enemies having to unite for a common purpose, which ends up putting them kind of on the outs with everybody. And then there's like this big, I don't want to say like government faction, but these overlords in some way, shape, or form are trying to control these two armies for a purpose. Okay. So that being said, you have these characters who are functionally children, although they look like, late teenagers, that sort of thing. Cause I guess they, I don't know, incubate fast. They come out like actual like children from the pods that they're in, and they grow up about to the like early 20s or so, I'd say. And they're child soldiers, totally sterile, have no like sex drive, nothing, like no inkling of romance and whatnot. So you have these like blank slates of character. Well, not even blank slates, but like, you have these characters with certain predispositions. As this game goes on, these characters have to learn to work together. And then a lot of what we talked about ends up getting kind of revealed to them over time to the point where, again, I'm not going to spoil it, but they do have an encounter with certain things that to me is absolutely beautiful Like
Mhm.
there's a particular scene that happens later on in the game where these characters encounter something they've never seen before, and the
Yeah.
way that the characters react, it's one of the most beautiful scenes I've seen in a video game. Like it's
Mhm.
positively movie-like in how it portrays their discovery of something so obvious to us, as humans,
Yeah.
something that even can seem mundane at sometimes.
Right.
But seeing it from the perspective of somebody, and that's what fiction's really good at. It's helping you put yourself in the character's shoes.
Mhm.
Like seeing it from the perspective of somebody who's never seen this sort of thing before that we take for granted
Mhm.
and all that's related with it. I'm just floored that this is not a more talked about game because it is exploring themes and ideas and not just beauty in the world and in
Mhm.
nature, but also some of the deep crushing heartbreak. You mentioned a
Mm.
particular antagonist, and it's kind of the thing these days to make antagonists kind of like maybe anti-heroes or maybe like sympathetic and everything. And it's
Yeah.
kind of been done to death. You have the bad boy with the dirty past or, a tragic past, and it's supposed to like appeal maybe to like female readers in different like novels and whatnot. But some of these most of these antagonists, while it might seem cliche, actually do have pretty good reasons for why they actually are antagonists. Like, at
Mhm.
least to them, it makes sense logically why they would do the things that they do
Mhm.
once more secrets of the world are uncovered. And
Yeah.
particularly the one that you're mentioning is like any man watching those scenes, you are going to feel something like deep within your gut. Like you are going to have such an emotional reaction that, I mean, if you don't, you're just clearly not human because it is such a primal, like instinct, I might say, or a primal emotion that you would feel if you were in a similar situation
Mhm.
that, like, again, there's only a few games that have made me feel emotional, and this one is right at the top of the list. It
Yeah.
is showing things that you just don't get from video games. And I think
Mhm.
Nate says this a lot. I think it really elevates the medium to something even more special and grand than we can actually like say. Which is so weird coming from the second game, which was like weeb trash in so many different ways. Like
Yes.
what this game does in its storytelling, in its character development, and how these characters are reacting to the world that they're in and the circumstances that they find themselves in is top class. It
Mhm.
is way up here. Like I can't even think of another series or another game that tackles the same thing.
Mhm.
And like this is where we're at. Like what can we do from here?
Yeah.
This is why people need to play this game because it tells such a beautiful, beautiful story from start to finish.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, there's the oh man, we will absolutely get to this character and what he means for the rest of the game within spoilers. I'm trying to think of how to say this without giving any kind of hints of spoilers, but one of the special things about that antagonist in particular is that he provides a way to like you continue to see the choices that he makes and it forces you to grapple with if you continue down this road how far down you're going to go like basically the descent into hell of this character and what it causes him and like you because like you said you understand why he has made the choices that he has made. And he's not altogether in the wrong, but what it ends up doing to him and those around him is why he ends up being an antagonist in this game. But it's yeah, it's certainly something because even what you talked about that moment of when your characters see this beautiful thing that we take for granted so often then you see that tarnished by this character is something else but that really should be spoilers so I'm not really gonna talk about that now but I'm very excited to talk about that because the more that you said okay I think I said this earlier I don't recall but I'll say this again. Sorry for repeating myself if I am. It's been a year since I've played through Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I wanted to kind of get past the recency bias because I really enjoyed the game after I played it. You know, I was like, oh, definitely top 25 material. Now I see it as like definitely top 10 material. And it, uh, I think even it has aged like wine in that now I'm recognizing things. Now, whether that's just through YouTube analysis or whether that's just pondering some of the themes of this game, I think it's both. That there was more going on than I realized even while I was playing it. And part of that happens just because the game recontextualizes what happened before because you see the layers that are going on underneath. But yeah, there's a lot that's very beautiful about this game. We've both said it. It's in our top games of all time. So we can clearly say that without spoiling anything. We would highly recommend it. Certainly. Before we get into spoilers, a few more things that we wanted to tackle. I just kind of in passing mentioned the music. I believe was it Mitsuda who did the music for this game, or at least a good portion of it. I want to say Yasunori Mitsuda did.
Yes, I believe so.
And
you're the music guy. You should know this.
Yeah, he's the Chrono Trigger guy. Chrono Cross, he's done a ton, but I know he's worked with Monolith Soft a lot. Anyways, I believe he had a big hand in this score. I know when I played it, it was not the first Xenoblade game. The music really stuck out to me. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's gradually has become more. What's the term? Atmospheric is not the term. But it's been more pushed to the background for me in particular, where it sets the scenes very well, but it's not like you have to notice the melodies are not as out front as they used to be. It's more of like a musical score for a movie.
Yeah. And I would say one thing about that soundtrack is that tracks blend so quickly together in the original Xenoblade game. So I have a really hard time, other than Gower Plains, like actually picking out music in my head of any particular scene or anything. So it all kind of blends together for me as well.
Yeah. And there are certain tracks that you hear a lot, like battle themes, or I think of the track when you use the Ouroboros combos and whatever. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but that one plays in my mind a lot. That I know exactly, like once I hear it. What I will say, though, is that going back to the game or watching something on YouTube or even pulling up the soundtrack, once I start hearing it, it hits. It hits hard. Where, like, while I was playing it, it's more in the background. But now going back to, like, you hear that dun, 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 of the flutes, and the emotions rush in, man. So I think in retrospect, the music is greater than I appreciated it while I was playing it. That's my personal experience.
I would totally agree. For this game, again, I'm not a music guy. I like to call myself musically dyslexic because I am just an absolute moron when it comes to music, picking things out, anything to do with music. Like, I like music, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
Many will attest that I have zero taste in music, so that's fine. And because I beat this game, I think it was 2 years ago, actually.
Okay.
Which, funny enough, I think it was like right after the birth of my fourth child, which, oh boy, let me tell you, that definitely, especially after she had been in the ICU for a week, that totally like set an interesting like frame of mind for me.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of the music, again, I'm not very good at picking out tracks. Like I hear some things and I'm like, yep, that's great. And I hear some other things. I'm like, that's not good. And that's how it is. For this, kind of the same thing. I was just like, what are the tracks in this game? Like, what's the music? And so before we even recorded, I was like, okay, let me go through the soundtrack real quick, play some things here and there. And as soon as I clicked on one, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when that happens because it's tied to this scene. Oh, I remember that when that happens because it's tied to this scene. Oh, that was the song that was used over the ending credits. Oh, wow. Okay. And I made like a list of like 15 different tracks. And I'm just like, oh yes, these ones are really good. I really specifically remember these ones. And to me, it like hits a lot of those same like high points that the Bravely Default soundtrack does, which is funny because I'm also playing that at the moment. So, there are things that it like, wow, this actually sounds really, really similar. And I think like the variety of the types of instruments that they do use is also like really honestly, like I can't even imagine how a composer or like a group of composers. I'm imagining there were like multiple composers for this game
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there are so many different like I don't know genres of tracks or genres of
Mhm.
music that are like at play here because you have that beautiful flute theme and it feels like
Right.
you're like in a Japanese garden or like during like some kind of like Japanese
Yeah.
ceremony is kind of what it feels like it's getting to. But then you get to the battles and it's just like you hear a lot of like violins going
Mhm.
along with, I don't know, rock guitars or something. But then there's also like some battles that you get to that's just like that is a full on like Latin choir in the background and they are going hard.
Mhm.
One winged angel is nothing compared to what I'm hearing right here. These people are belting it out. And there's even one like near the end of the game where it's like Latin chorus and I believe it's a harpsichord, possibly,
Mm.
or I'm not sure. The piano that does like the like electronic-y sound, not like a
Mhm.
keyboard, but it's like I don't know, whatever that thing is, like circusy type, instrument.
Mhm.
I have no idea what these instruments are called, guys. I'm completely a moron. So
I think you were right. I think
is
the
it a
harpsichord
harpsichord?
is what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
and just the
For
blending of those two things together,
yeah.
I never even like imagined these disparate elements could come together and make something so beautiful. But I mean, if you want to double check, it's the Grand Theater of Life,
Okay.
that one in particular. So if you want
Yeah.
to like check that while I'm,
Yeah.
absolutely failing discussing music,
No.
it's just
No,
things
you're
like
good.
that. It's unbelievably good, and
Mhm.
it's not necessarily earworms where it like sticks in your head and you
Right.
keep replaying the same thing, but it's like it will just enter your head just randomly. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. This is kind of like this is the emotion I felt back then. Da da da.
Right.
I will say the absolute best song in the entire game is the song that plays when you are doing a chain attack, and
Okay.
that is the one song that is the earworm because I feel like I could just leave my Switch on and just let it stay in that like chain attack mode for an hour because that song is so good. Again, very Bravely Default esque. It kind of reminds
Mhm.
me of when you would do a summon of one of your friends in the middle of a battle in Bravely Default, and then they would come
Mhm.
in and do their special attack, and it's like that one specific music that plays. I can't remember what the track is called, but my Bravely Default bros will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Nice.
gosh, yeah. For somebody like me who is not very musically affluent or understanding, the soundtrack rips. It's a bop. It's lit. Complete
Yes.
fire. Just get it. And there's like 167 tracks or something I think I saw on that playlist, but
Dude,
probably even more.
yeah, what I'm looking at is this physical edition that they have for sale. It's 9 CDs,
Oh my gosh.
142 tracks.
Okay.
Like, that is crazy.
And
And yeah, how do I put this? As someone who's a little bit more musically inclined, like I'm surprised that much music is in a $70 video game. It wasn't even 70, it was
it was
$60
60.
retail. Like that is insane to me. Like the length that you would have to go to record all of that. That you can put it together into a package for $70 inside a video game. Now, I don't know how much this actual soundtrack is. I'm sure it's pretty expensive. It comes with some replica flutes.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
So yeah, like it's this whole
Instant
package thing.
purchase.
But that is crazy that you have 9 CDs and 142 tracks for a video game.
And I bet it's 10 times the amount of the game itself.
Right. Yeah, probably. I mean, it was released a while ago, so I doubt that there's even any that are still manufactured. But that's it's kind of insane. No,
And I will
actually
say,
there's $45. Wow.
oh,
For the regular version, not the deluxe with the
even the
replica
regular
flute.
edition is great.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
I will say the two vocal songs in particular that was recorded with an English, I would assume European singer, kind of has some shades of like when the Earthbound soundtrack got those vocal songs where
Mhm.
they actually had like this one artist come in and like create like lyrical versions of the songs from the game. That's kind of what this kind of felt like, and it didn't really strike me until I was like re-listening to them in preparation for this podcast. It feels like it ties in with some of the European influences on the different accents that they chose, which this game
Okay.
is primarily Japanese, so it's made by a Japanese team and everything, but they did a really good job, for the first game, because they didn't think it was going to come out in America. They just recorded it with a British voice cast. And
Right.
so that's the version we ended up getting because they didn't want to re-record with the American voices. Okay, totally fine. Xenoblade 2 like really leaned into it, having the different accents of the different races there. But this game, I think they really went all out into really differentiating the accents between the races even more so than before. And I think these vocal songs might actually be a reflection of that. I could just be like completely crazy here. But as I was listening to those vocal songs, they really reminded me a lot of the different types of European folk songs. I was in a folk dancing class when I was in college, so I heard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of European folk songs, especially, and like Russian, German, Polish, all these different things. That's what these songs really remind me of. And I don't know if it's just me like bringing in some of the bias because I understand like why they chose the accents and everything. And it almost feels like they're like really wanting to play up a lot of these different aspects of like European culture, which is fascinating coming from a Japanese game. I feel like that's kind of what they're going for. So, if you want to like listen to these songs, you can tell this lady is definitely a European singer. Like she is not an American singer. So I don't know. It's just fascinating to me. And it just feels like they are actually like putting in the work to, you can maybe say that the voice casting for the first game was a mistake for English, or just like a product of its time, but they're really leaning into it. And I can't imagine that's not influencing their choices. I really can't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it makes me wonder about the Japanese voice cast then.
Yeah. I did not play this in Japanese at all.
Neither
I wanted
did
the full European like experience.
Yeah. Because I mean, they do such a great job. I mean, gosh, that's something else. Okay, voice acting is actually really good in this game. There's not very many awkward moments, hardly at all. So,
and the only awkwardness is the fact that European, languages are just awkward.
Yeah.
British people are just awkward.
And sometimes hard to understand just because of how thick the accent, or the area in the game when everyone's Australian.
I know, random. Hey Nick, there you go.
Yeah, Gondor. Anyways, I did, because we're still in the non-spoiler section, I did mention earlier about the traversal in this game. You talked about how it's a big open world. But I did just want to mention how exploration in this world is a big part. It feels as though the development team really wanted you to explore and see what they had created. So the reason I say that is because not only do you just open up more areas in the map and fast travel and stuff like that, not only is it sending you, across these huge plains in order to get to where you're going to, but you actually gain experience and items just by reaching a new area of the map. So there's added incentive to actually uncovering the map and just going out and exploring for a little bit. The same way that battling does. Like, it's not a separate currency. They actually just give you experience for going out. So what that speaks to me just mechanically is that Monolith, like, they put a lot of time and effort into creating this world, and they want you to notice it. They want you to enjoy it, instead of just focusing on kind of the battles and the quests that you're on and things along those lines.
Right.
So again, I didn't realize the connections that the world has to the first two games. I will say that there's a lot of, not reused areas, no, not altogether, but lots of references if you dig a little bit deeper. So
yeah. So the last thing I will say before we get into, some big spoilers, and I know I messaged you a lot about this as I was playing the game, I think, and even afterwards, the cinematography in this game is unreal. The types of angles that they use and the way that they focus like different parts of the shot, like this game is extremely visual. And even if you were playing in Japanese, I feel like just the visuals alone could give you so much context for these characters and how they interact. It is just absolutely beautiful. There's one scene in particular where near the end, without spoilers, where two characters are talking to each other, I'll say separated by a wall of some sorts, and primarily one character is talking to the other character, and the way that the other character is emoting and how they frame the shot to only have like certain sections of their face in the
Mm.
scene would actually give you enough clues to know exactly what's going to happen at the climax of the story.
Hmm.
That's about as vague as I can be.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, I was like, that is such a little small thing for like a couple frames of animation, but that basically sold the entire scene to me. And the fact
Mm.
that I could predict exactly what was going to happen next, even though they hadn't like revealed anything related to that, speaks volumes about what this game is trying to communicate. Again, you mentioned they created this big, beautiful world and they want you to explore in it, but they've also created these amazing cutscenes and shots of these characters and how they're interacting that elevates us again to kind of an unprecedented level. I would put this like at the level of any Kojima game, like
Hmm.
easily. You know, Death Stranding, cinematically beautiful, and it has
Hmm.
amazing like shots that they have
Yeah.
to communicate like what the story is. This game rivals that easily, like
Mm.
no contest in my mind. I feel like it should be considered a higher caliber game just for what they actually pull off. So,
Yeah.
oh man, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good point too. The cutscenes themselves are extremely well done, and there's a lot of them throughout the game.
Hmm.
And even the one that you're referencing, it just brings back some
Yeah. And the
emotions.
fact is, you knew exactly what I was talking about. That scene played in
Oh
your
yeah.
mind as I was saying it. You know exactly what these characters are saying and what
Yeah.
this other character is reacting to and why
Hmm.
perfectly. Like the
Yeah.
fact that that was all communicated visually to us is it's stellar. It's just stellar.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Man, well, there's a lot to gush about this game. Clearly, we both absolutely love it because I'm in the same camp as you. Is like I think this is. It feels like such an underrated gem. It's like if you know, you know. But yeah, it is. I I said earlier that I really respect your opinion on video games, and I do. But there was a part of me that's like, okay, he is saying this is like top 3 games of all time after just playing it. Is it really that good though? Is it really that good? And after experiencing it, I'm like, yeah, now I get it. I get it. And all that to say, so we both absolutely love the game, but that does not mean that it is absolutely perfect in all that it does. And so I'd like to just address before we move to spoilers, any gripes that we have with the game, any issues that we've had kind of playing the game, just so that we can warn those of you who have not played this game, just some things to look out for. And the first thing that I would say is that it's long, so you're gonna have to kind of strap in and be prepared to go through spend a good chunk of time in order to get through it. There is a payoff. There's a reason why it's long. It kind of has to be long in order to create these subtle character moments that would not be impactful if it was not fully doing that. We talked about one of these antagonists earlier, bringing them up again, is that I think as I've looked through kind of the things that this game does, I think they do an extremely good job of not only giving you some answers and options throughout the game of where these characters could go, but also giving kind of counter arguments of saying, if you're going to go down these roads, even if you think it's right, these are the downsides to it. It's not all rosy. If you choose the right way to go, like, there's still going to be issues. And again, that's why it makes some of these antagonists very relatable, because they're not willing to put up with those certain issues. We can talk about that in a moment. So I'm saying that it's a very long game, and that in my mid 30s, it's a lot harder to come by the time in order to play a game like this. So that's something that I think you should watch out for as you play the game. What else do you have in terms of any issues that you have with the game, or anything that you would
Hmm.
warn people against?
Some issues, I think. If you are not a fan of menus, this game
Mm.
does do its best to try to, minimize how many times you have to like go into the menu to try to figure things out. And if you hate tutorials, like, oh my gosh, yeah, get ready for this, because there is a lot of tutorials.
Yeah.
A lot. So if that kind of just breaks a game for you, I guess that would be an issue. If, I keep making the comparison. If you've played Final Fantasy 12, you're pretty good. This is not as complicated as Final Fantasy 13. Thank goodness. Thank goodness,
Okay.
because those
Okay.
battles were indecipherable, and the way that
Mm.
combat works did not make any sense unless you put, like, dozens and dozens of hours of studying it.
Whew.
But boy, there is a certain amount of, like, menus that you have to look through to try to figure out, like, how do I customize this? How do I do this? And then there's crafting involved and everything. If you get overwhelmed by games, like, really easily,
Mhm.
like, thankfully this game doesn't force you to do a lot of those things for the majority of the game, but you will have to, like,
Right.
do some things that are just like, okay, this part is kind of a slog. Like, I'm thinking in particular of an area of the game, and you might disagree with me, where you actually have to, like, take control of a boat of sorts.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
that was part of the one part of the game. I'm just like, I'm not having fun with this part of the game. Thankfully, it was pretty
Mhm.
short, but it did kind of interrupt the flow that I was going for. So
Mhm.
maybe you disagree, maybe you don't, but it's a big boy, this game, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I do think there can be some pacing issues. If I'm thinking of what if I'm thinking of what you were talking about earlier, it's towards the end of the game where it does kind of feel like, oh, we were going somewhere, but now let's do this kind of longer-ish side quest
Yeah.
for a little while. So that does present an issue with the pacing where I feel like for the rest of the game, it might feel as though the pacing might be off because you don't realize kind of what the game is doing in world building and in crafting
Yeah.
characters and stuff like that, because there's big payoffs. Whereas I don't think that one in particular has much of a payoff. Yeah. So yeah, I think pacing issues could be a thing as you're going through.
Oh, and there's a lot of proper nouns. This is proper
Yes.
noun, the game. If you can read Lord of the Rings or the Silmarillion and get by just fine, then this game will be perfectly easy. If you
Mhm.
struggle with the names in the Silmarillion, this game is going to smack you upside the head.
Yeah. Keeping track of all the characters and people and places and things like that. Yeah. Because they don't even necessarily explain all the time every little thing that they're talking about, because there's a lot of sci-fi, for lack of a better term, sci-fi gobbledygook throughout the games. There's-
Excuse me, we call that technobabble?
Yes, exactly. Technobabble of flame clocks and I'm trying to think of the power charger or whatever that they have. Anyways,
Annihilation
all kinds
moments.
of stuff. Yes, yeah, all that, and not to mention the different types of arts. You have talent arts and fusion arts and all that stuff that goes into it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
arts
There's
and
a lot
crafts.
to keep track of. Yes, right. Yeah, you can craft arts, can't you?
Mhm.
I don't know. No, I guess you can't. Anyways, I do think kind of a byproduct of what you mentioned earlier of how they try and streamline some of the stuff. The game can be very deep in terms of the mechanics of the game, the battle system. Because they try and streamline it, I do think it makes the game overall to be pretty easy. I didn't die that many times. It's very forgiving that when you die, you're not usually typically taken back very far. Usually just
not at
right
all.
before the battle. And so there's not much, it doesn't penalize you for dying. So overall, I think mechanically the game is pretty easy. There are some moments, especially towards the end of the game, where you'll probably want to tweak a little bit, use different classes, try some different things in order to finish parts, in order to beat bosses. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I would say if you like job systems, like in Bravely Default or was it Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy III, you're gonna love this game. There are so many jobs. I beat the
Yeah.
game without unlocking even half of the jobs because a lot of them are optional.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I stuck
Yeah,
with the
they
same
are.
like basic 10, and I was
Okay.
like, this is great. But there
Oh,
are
good.
like 10 to 15 more.
Right.
And I didn't even bother searching them out. And I was like, I'll eventually go back and replay this game because it's that good.
Mm.
But if you like, that sort of customization, it, like, for example, from Bravely Default, you're going to love this. That's for sure.
Yeah. Man, okay, that's such a different experience, because actually that part you were talking about where the pacing it gets slower, I use that time also to go hunt down a bunch of stuff on the map and unlock all the different jobs. So I intentionally like tried to get all of them. Did I use them all? Heck no. But I wanted them all. I wanted them all unlocked. So,
and this is why I spend 40 hours on a game and you spend 90 plus hours.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, awesome. Well, okay. Last thing before we get to spoilers, for real this time, is that we've got this in the notes and it's pre-spoiler, but some of the themes of the game, just to kind of give you a taste of what you're in for. I know some of the things that we've talked about before is the value of life, which I know sounds crazy in a game where, it's a bunch of characters that are largely dispensable in that they only live for 10 years. They're, kind of in the middle of a war constantly. But that actually plays into some of their, again, expectations and seeing it from different perspectives of like, oh, what would it mean if it were possible to live longer? Because one of the main characters, we didn't even talk about this, one of the main characters is on her last year of life. And so as the game progresses, it takes a good long time to go through this game. She gets closer and closer and closer to this time when she knows she's going to die. Like, that's what happens. When you're 10 years old, you die. You have a physical mark on you.
Yeah, which is actually portrayed as a really good thing. If you make it to your 10th year of life, you are considered to be of like the utmost honorable person within the entire city or whatever it is. And it's like a big deal if you make it to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So if that were not the case, so then what is, that opens up a lot of questions. And so as the player, obviously you can live more than 10 years, very possibly, especially if you're playing this game. And so what does that mean for you? It causes you to ask those questions as well. So any other themes that you want to touch on before we jump to spoilers?
Without getting into spoilers, I feel like this game emphasizes the importance of a family in ways that you will not expect. You do not expect the places that they go and the types of emotions that they can tear out of you and make you feel. Even if you're a man, you will feel these emotions, especially if you're a man. I would say this game is absolutely ideal for husbands and dads to go through because it takes you places and it makes you so introspective about what you do as a husband and what you do as a father. Not just with, particularly important characters, but also for a lot of different minor characters as well. I think it's all about family. It's all about family.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Which is, very surprising. Again, there's more going on underneath the surface. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, then I think that just about completes all that we can talk about before spoilers. So, again, said it multiple times here, but we both highly recommend this game. We think it's very special. Like it is. There's something very unique about this game in the art that was put into it, both in the writing, the character writing, and the themes that this game tackles and looks at and kind of forces you to look at and go deeper than just a surface argument. But okay, if you're really going to play this out, then these are the consequences of your decisions, in a way that is not common in the medium of video games. So recognize that you're going to need some patience. It is a slow burn, but it's there for a reason. It does eventually pay off after going through what the game is trying to do. And yeah, like you said, it'll make you feel. So if you want a game that'll make you feel, go pick up Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And with that, we've been talking an hour on just the game itself, but we have more to say. And included in what we have to say are some spoilers. That's right. Some
Wow.
spoilers.
WOW. Wow.
Wow.
I had not heard that before.
Okay.
Did you play
All
that
right.
on a previous episode? I'm a
We've
little bit admittedly behind on episodes, so
we've played it on a few episodes. We have. I'm
okay.
sure it sounds very different at 2 times speed as well.
Mhm.
But yes, yeah, that is our
Well, the last
spoiler
two games
stinger.
that you've covered, I've never played, so I'm just like, I don't know if I want to listen to this one yet. So
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, man, oh man, where do we even start? Now that you guys who've played the game are with us here.
Or you dirty
My
rotten
goodness.
spoilers who are not going
Yeah,
to take our advice,
yeah.
Paul.
I'm sorry for you sad little men.
Or women.
Or
Equal
women.
opportunity offenders here.
Yes,
Come on.
that's true. You're still sad.
Yes.
Play the game. It'll make you sad, but it'll make you happy too.
Mhm.
It'll hit you where it hurts in a good way. Anyways, where do you even want to start with spoilers, man? There's so
I'm not
much to
even
talk
sure
about.
at this point. I feel like we've talked about so much and we didn't even cover like any of the main plot points.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
gosh. I don't know where to go from here. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's connect it back to the first two games. Okay. So
Okay.
you have Xenoblade. We're just going to assume that you guys know everything about Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2. Probably not Xenoblade X because I don't think that comes into play in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I don't recall any of
Yeah.
it connecting. I don't recall much of the story from it either, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So the fundamental aspect of this game is that the two worlds from the first game and the second game are merging. Now, going back a little bit from that, the world was originally one world until this crazy scientist guy,
Mm-hmm.
used science,
Mm-hmm.
almost like a purely like scientific thing. It's really interesting. It's got its roots in Xenogears. It's got its roots in the Xenosaga,
Saga. Okay.
the Xenosaga games. But then you got this guy who split the world into two. And from that, his very soul was actually ripped in half as well.
Yeah,
And so,
that's crazy.
yeah, it's the craziest thing. So he's like almost like two independently like operating. One is an antagonist ish type thing, and one is not really an antagonist. So he's kind of ruling over the two worlds and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
The fundamental conceit is that the two worlds that were split at one time using the power of science want to come back together and converge.
Mm-hmm.
And the metaphor that they really use is actually quite a beautiful metaphor. It's like they're two forlorn lovers, almost like a single soul ripped in half that wants to come back together because it loves the other so much, I guess, is kind of what it was going for.
Mhm.
And I thought that was a really interesting like metaphor or analogy or whatever you call it that they use, is that the worlds want to be joined back together because they were torn apart so violently.
Mhm.
And what that is doing is it's making a sort of convergence, or like kind of like a, I don't know, Crisis on Infinite Earths type thing or Battle World type thing from the Marvel comics, that, DC and Marvel, that their ideas of like these different like multiverse theories and the worlds coming back together. The worlds want to return together, but because of that, the cast of the first game and the cast of the second game are somehow coming in like communication with the other group, and they're realizing like, oh wow, okay, we're actually a connected whole. And
Mhm.
the two main like queen type figures from the two worlds are in contact with each other, and they're trying to prepare for this convergence so that everybody doesn't die. But eventually what happens is that the worlds actually do come back together, and it kind of creates this battle world like scenario where you have these races and these different like scenes and topographical areas that are just kind of coming back together, and it just kind of mishmashes everything together.
Mhm.
And it creates complete chaos. Am I kind of getting this plot right?
So
that make sense?
somewhat, like up until that point, the thing was that they were in communication for when there was going to be this convergence. They created this origin machine in order to kind of like reset the world and combine it. And at the moment that it was supposed to trigger the reset, it failed. And so another entity comes up and basically takes control of the world. And that's what throws it into
Right.
chaos. And those are kind of your typical antagonists throughout this game. Is this is it spawned from this entity that kind of takes control? And I don't remember the particulars of how that entity became a part of any of it.
That's answered in future Redeem DLC.
There you go. There you go. Then that's why I don't fully understand it. but that's what I remember. That's what it has to do. So like, even though their aims were noble, it just ended up failing, that time around.
Mhm.
And so that provided some sort of opportunity. So also, none of this is explained to you until the last hour of the game.
Couple hours, yes.
Well, right. I'm being hyperbolic there, because it is drip fed from the last few hours, because when you finally meet Nia from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, she does explain some of that stuff.
Mhm.
That's towards the end of the game, though. So
Yeah.
But that's kind of like where I was talking about. There's layers, and that's what's going on underneath everything. Like, on the surface level, you're fighting against this entity, or these entities that create that can take the characters in the game and make them kind of live forever ish, like super powerful. And those end up being the antagonists. And like you mentioned, they have reasons for why. So non-spoiler stuff, we didn't mention how eventually you learn that life on Ionios is cyclical. So when you die, you're eventually reborn in a pod. And so that there's this constant kind of recycling of people. You live different lives, but a lot of the times those lives are very similar to each other.
Mhm.
You can have false memories and things like that are going on.
It's like a form of reincarnation, but you're the same person every time, and time is
Mhm.
still passing independent of that. So, you know, if you die, you'll get reborn and you'll go through similar training because you are a soldier bred from, I don't want to say the womb, but from the pod.
Right.
They instantly give you a weapon. And they're just like, all right, you're a soldier and we're going to fight these other guys. And that's kind of what you do over and over again. And
Mhm.
while, some of the lifetimes that you live will probably be mostly similar, there's some of them do deviate a little bit from what I could tell.
Mhm.
But that plays into one villain in particular, which is interesting. So, or a
Right.
couple of them actually.
Yeah, I mean, are you thinking of Shania? That's the one that comes to mind for me. Is she attempts, like, she lives multiple lives trying her best to become a good soldier, and
Mhm,
can constantly fails. And
mhm,
so she ends up, like, during the game, before you know any of that stuff, and you see her turn to the dark side, which she's like a double agent the whole time, whatever.
mhm,
She got under my skin. I'm like this
mhm,
complete piece of trash human being that like doomed everyone she ever knew. Like, I freaking hate this character. But then when it explains, like, oh, she's lived dozens of lives and tried her hardest, and she has not been able to become useful.
mhm,
And she's been treated like trash also, so that doesn't help. And so it's like, I still hate her, but I also understand why she kind of gives up and is like, no, just give me power so that I can become what I've been trying to
mhm.
become for my many, many lives. Like, okay, it's tragic and it's not the right choice, but dang it, I get it. Like,
Yeah. See, that wasn't even the character I was thinking. I was thinking
okay.
specifically of Yorin, who is in that
Okay,
original
yeah, yeah,
group
yeah.
with Noah, Lance, and Uni, the
Hmm.
three from the Cavessian side, where you have this kind of derpy little chubby guy who's with
Yeah.
you, and he's completely useless as a kid, and eventually he gets killed throughout the course of like the prologue, or like prior to the prologue. Well,
Hmm.
in a flashback, you learn about this friend that they had who died because he was pretty much useless. But what you don't realize until later is that this friend, his soul is basically pulled out of this reincarnation cycle by the antagonist because they see some potential in him. And they reveal to him that basically every single life that he lived, he was absolutely completely useless. He's always like his failures always result in either the death of a teammate or his own death,
Mm,
and he just can't be counted on. And seeing this realization for this character absolutely just causes him to snap and
yep.
become like the most evil son of the gun that he can possibly
Yeah.
imagine. And because all the antagonists are wearing some kind of helmet of some sort, you don't actually know who they are until the end. But
Hmm.
for the most part, most of the antagonists are actually made up of like some of the regular characters that are pulled out of this kind of reincarnation cycle and made into antagonists. So people that you actually have known, like Yorin, he is a villain like from the get-go there, and you don't discover who he is until way later.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just found that to be very interesting.
Yeah. Because it's
like
tragic.
it's like you said, it's exploring the consequences of your actions, and it's like, okay, if you choose this is what's gonna happen to you, and how you can get corrupted over time.
Right.
Just,
yeah.
just fascinating stuff.
And if you don't, like, if you choose the other thing, you're going to face a lot of hardship. You're going to cause the death of you're still going to have issues. It's not like the right choice is all good, that there are problems that you're going to face even by choosing the better of the two options. And that, I feel like this game actually wrestles with those things throughout it, without shying away from, but if you make the wrong choice, it's a descent to hell. Man, do we want to talk about N, or do we want to talk about your main characters first?
Main characters first.
Okay.
I think would make more sense.
Then let me just focus in on one for just a second, because you brought up Yorin is the character of Lance. And he's who you would assume to be just a meathead. And I mean, for a lot of the game, he is. I mean, that's his typical trope, is this meathead character. But Yorin dies in this flashback, saving him, basically like pushing him out of the way and getting crushed himself. And Lance, you see throughout the game, like it's not like it's super hidden down deep. Like he'll mention it sometimes because his teammates are there and they understand. Like, he is carrying the weight of survivor's guilt throughout this game, because he would pick on this character who was his teammate, who was useless. Like, come on, do better, and then he ends up saving his life and dying in the process, sacrificing himself to save Lance's life, who's supposed to be the super strong guy. And so that messes with his head. And then you see Yorin as an antagonist is a little turd. Because I don't want to say other words into a microphone, like twist the knife, man, and just talk about how he saved his life and how worthless he is. And it goes deep. Like, they don't shy away from that. So I'm saying that even like a lot of these characters start off as tropes, but you see kind of what's going on deeper and why they kind of present themselves in different ways. But his whole life, like, or at least throughout this game, that's kind of in the back of his mind. And so he really wants to say, when he figures out, who this antagonist is, he really wants to save Yorin. But Yorin is an evil son of a gun. So
for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's probably not, hard to believe that eventually he comes around. But because of the choices he makes, he's clearly going to have to die, because there's no redeeming that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. So. For sure. Is there anyone in particular? I know there are a few things. Well, yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and go there. So your main cast of characters: Noah, Mio, Lance, Senna, Uni, and Tyon. These six main characters. One thing that I found really interesting, and it was pointed out to me, I didn't really notice it myself, but even the mechanics of the game subtly kind of foreshadow some of the growth that they're going to go through as characters. So I didn't notice this until it was pointed out. And then it's like, oh, wow, like, that's really interesting how they do this. But the different character classes, you've got your fighter, your defender, which is your tank, and your healer. Okay. And so out of these six characters, Noah is a fighter, and he's the leader, which is interesting because of the role that he plays, like his personality as someone who off-sees other characters, and someone who's very encouraging to everyone else. You would think he would fit more as a healer, but he's the fighter because he ends up being the leader of the team. Lance is similar in that, like, again, big meathead. You'd think he'd be the bruiser. You'd think he'd be out front fighting, and in a sense he is, but he's a defender. Like, he's a tank. He's not necessarily the damage dealer, which again, you'd think by his character that he'd be more that way. what's her name? Senna is in a similar position, where she's a defender. Uni, the one of your your first main three
The
characters.
most foul-mouthed character in the game, other
Yeah.
than another character we both mutually hate.
Right. She's a healer rather than a fighter or something like that. Which again, I just found very interesting because they don't take kind of their typical roles that you would think based on the tropes that they embody in their characters. So
Yeah.
there's more going on underneath the surface.
Layers and layers.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything you want to mention about these characters?
Well, one of the primary mechanics of the combat system, which we didn't really get into, and that's totally fine that we didn't, because we could talk for hours and hours just on the combat alone, I would think, is the idea of the Ouroboros, or the fact that you have two characters that fuse basically into this big giant like monstrosity of a, I don't know, it's hard to like even describe what these things look like. They're like personas, honestly, in kind of the way they present themselves, but like,
that's true. I think what are the personas for Persona 4? Like the main character personas, kind of a combination of that and like an what are they called? The Evangelion the Avas. Yeah.
okay, the
So
Avas,
like an
yeah,
Ava.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're basically like fusing into this almost like Ava looking robotic, organic like fusion. And from early on, you can kind of see like how the characters are going to be paired together. They're paired together with the person that they tend to clash with the most. So Noah and Mio, which is interesting, they're obviously like the main like leaders of the group, and they're both, offseers. So again, kind of playing against the type. They're the ones that are put into that leadership position, and they're the first ones that actually discovered this Ouroboros power. What I found interesting is that comparing their personalities, they really try to like match them up with their opposites. So while Noah is a more passive character, almost like aggravatingly so in some like certain aspects of the game, where he's kind of hemming and hawing and he's kind of like not making decisions. Mio, on the other hand, she was definitely like the more like forthright, like almost bloodlusty character early on, because she was like ready to just murder the entire army that she was going up against just on her own. And so because those two, they end up getting the Ouroboros power first and they're fused together, what it kind of portrays is that there's a form of like balance between them that they're going to have to reach in order to actually effectively work together to battle all the different, what do we call them? All the different antagonists, I should just say. So, and I just found that interesting. And then again, you have Lanz and Uni. Is it Lanz and Uni? Yeah, Lanz and Uni, or Lanz and Senna.
No,
Lanz
sorry,
and Senna.
Senna.
The two like muscle heads of the group, where you have Lanz, this big giant, like 8-foot tall absolute tank. And then you have Senna, who's like this little tiny girl with like the big spunk and everything, who wields the giant hammer. Right? She has a big hammer.
Yep.
Yeah. And so they're constantly at odds just because both of them are like the same personality. But then they come together, and I don't know, it's just interesting. You got this big guy and this little tiny, like 10-year-old looking girl that have to like fuse together in order to create this character that's like kind of showcasing their emotions a little bit, and like the physical defense of being defenders and everything. I don't know, because Senna's like really protective of Mio like the entire game, and then you have Lance, who's like, regretting the fact that he did not do such and such a thing. So putting them together is like, oh, that's really interesting. And then even with Uni and Tyon, and Tyon's one of those guys I hated like right at the beginning, because like, oh my gosh, you were just so aggravatingly like, such a know-it-all. Uni is like the big hothead and emotional one of the group on the Kvezian side. But then you have Tyon, who's like super like logical, like I am the strategist. And they are, these two in particular, it's interesting. You think about how much screen time they actually get. They get a lot of screen time where they're just constantly at each other's throats. But then they're the ones that actually have to come together to create this new form that is able to balance out like the emotion and the logic that's kind of at play there. So, while the depictions of the Ouroboros form, Ouroboros, man, that's a hard word to say, honestly. The Ouroboros forms are maybe predictable, maybe even stereotypical. I think it plays out really well over the course of the game when you see how these characters develop into their opposites a little bit. Yeah, that sort of thing also mirrors their character arcs over time, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting too. The game kind of forces these things to happen because when you go into Ouroboros, like you see, it says that each character sees inside the other's head. So
Mhm.
like there's no getting around kind of some of the things that you're hiding, you know.
Mhm.
And so that makes you vulnerable, and that's in order to accomplish what they're doing, you know, taking down these antagonists and trying to save other
Mhm.
colonies and or just survive. And so it's
Yeah.
required, but it also requires a lot of you to kind of open yourself up to someone else,
Yeah.
especially in this case, someone that you hate because it's from the
Yeah.
other side.
And not to like over spiritualize it or anything, but it does seem kind of interesting how the way that they're paired up, it almost feels like a marriage in a sense, where it's like
Mhm,
the two souls becoming one,
mhm.
and the fact that they see everything about the
Yeah.
other character, like everything that they've done in their life, and they instantly know it and see it. And you would think the first reaction would be like absolute disgust, because it's like the moment you peer into another person's soul, you see all of their positives, but also all of their negatives, their
Mhm.
faults and their good things. But, primarily, us being Christians, we're like, oh, well, obviously the people are sinful to the very core and everything. So very disgusting. So if we were to see into each other's hearts, we would think, oh, wow, that person's disgusting. But they don't really portray it as that. It's almost like a beautiful thing, almost a romantic type thing.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's hard to explain, but there is something that I think they do with that story wise that's very interesting and not necessarily reflective of like our modern times, where we're all like nihilistic and everything about that sort of thing and super pessimistic and black pilled.
Yeah.
It's presented as a positive thing that they are learning about each other so
Right.
intimately. I mean, you could, but they don't make it sexual either.
Right.
So I feel like they do it in a very good way,
Mhm.
in a way that will teach you to understand people.
Yeah. I think the only negative side of that, and I don't remember exactly what happens, but I seem to recall multiple characters. It was not that they were in any way disgusted of the other person. It was more of a self-consciousness of,
Yeah.
oh, now you see me, like almost like a nakedness.
Hmm.
Even though they're fully clothed in these forms and whatever, but
And
it's
again,
just
not
like
to over spiritualize it, but it feels like there's some spiritual things you could really pull out of that. That is,
yeah,
it's just fascinating, honestly,
yeah.
that a secular game studio could come to this
Mhm.
understanding where it's like you're not repulsed by the other person, but you are feeling ashamed because you are, in a sense, naked, emotionally naked.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Oh man, I think that's just such a great segue into what we were
yes.
talking about earlier that we
Mhm.
could not talk about in terms of spoilers. But my goodness, the moments when you are walking, or excuse me, not you, but when the characters are walking through the city and they see both kids running around and older people, and they see young couples holding hands and they're just like, what is that? Like there's a fascination, there's a wonder, there's an awe, and there's a like a confusion, but like a curiosity of like, I want to know more about what that is. Like, what is this world? Because all I've ever known is war. And so you see two people that love each other and they don't understand it.
Mhm.
Like they know friendship from being, brothers in arms and things like
Mhm.
that. But to see the sexual nature of a couple,
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
like a man and a woman just enjoying each other. And I don't mean any innuendo there. I mean like a
Mhm.
couple holding hands, like just
Mhm.
being together.
Or making
Like,
out is one thing that
do they?
they're
Okay,
gawking at some like a couple kissing on a bench after they see the
okay.
baby, and they're just like,
What?
"What?
Yeah,
What is that?"
yeah.
Mhm.
It was absolutely fascinating, just the way that cutscene shows it, but also just the things that are wrapped around it because you've been through so much in the game to get up to that point, and then to see them just like in awe of what life could be, and in awe of even what reproduction is.
Mhm.
Like it was so because they go to, what was it, like they go to a hospital
Yeah.
and
So
see a baby.
the
Like,
scene I was in particular referring to is one of like just a dozen scenes that should be, studying in a film class for just how well it portrays like what it's trying to get across. So that scene, backing up a little bit, these characters, they only know their different colonies and their different platoons and everything that they're in. So they only know the military life. So they eventually find a place called a city. They don't even know what a city is. Like,
mm,
they hear the word city and they're like, what is a city? I don't understand that, because all they know
mm,
is their little small insular world that just takes place on the battlefield. So they
hmm,
find a city. And again, the concept of a city existing in this type of world doesn't make any sense. If you only live 10 years, why would you build a city?
mm,
It's fascinating again that secular people
yeah.
are making a game like this that has so many interesting spiritual themes. But anyway, they're taken to a hospital, and they meet a brand new, like, just born baby with the mother and the father standing right there, and they're shown like, this is what a baby is. None of these people have seen a baby, and
Hmm.
so they are just absolutely enthralled by the fact that this little tiny, like, defenseless creature exists, and they're taking turns kind of like tapping it, basically, like, "It's baby, okay." And what I found interesting is that Mio is the one that goes to the room first,
Hmm.
and is the first one to interact with the baby and like actually touch the baby and see how soft it is and interact with the mother about it. And then, who's it? Senna also like pops in. She's like, "Whoa, this is so cool." But then Tyon, he's the one that gets the most excited about the entire thing. The one that's like
Mm.
purely logical, who wants to be like a Vulcan, basically. He's the one that's like giddy about the fact, like, this is a baby. A baby exists like right in front of me.
Mhm.
And again, it just reflects this like super like pro family message that this game
Yeah,
is trying to send to the player. Like, yes, babies are a good thing, and they are a
right.
natural thing that need to happen in order to preserve the species.
Yeah, yeah.
And seeing it from the perspective of characters who have never seen a baby before, and how just overjoyed they are at the fact that these things exist to
Mhm.
begin with, but that they get to actually, like, the idea of taking care of it and providing for it and learning about like the natural way of life. Again, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, there is no other word that you can use to describe it other than this is just a beautiful section of the story, of a
Mhm.
larger, more beautiful story that, gosh, really helps you to think about like your own life and maybe even the consequences of your actions, like that you might take during your
Mhm.
life. It's like, do you become a parent? Like, when does that happen? Like, who do you get married to? All these questions are really dealt with in such an interesting way that, again, I've never seen games do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like it's not that the themes or the plot of the game was foreshadowing that this is, a core theme of the game. It's that because of the world that they live in, because
Mhm.
of these things, like, it makes a lot of sense, but it was never like a huge thing throughout. Like, throughout the game, yes, you've been wrestling with what is life if you can only live 10 years, what is purpose, meaning, things like that. And then you get this answer in family. It kind of comes out of left field. It's not, they set it up without making it explicit, like, this is where we're going.
Mhm.
Which is I mean, I think it just makes that kind of punch even harder, not to mention that previous scene that we kind of alluded to earlier, of the hour and a half cut scene of where you get a lot of reveals, um where Noah and Mio basically come to terms with the fact that they love each other deeply, and that they're going to be ripped apart. And I mean, it is in a communal context as well, of like friends, very close friends as well, but
Mhm.
especially between Noah and Mio, which then sets up the whole antagonism of you understand N,
Mhm.
and who he is and why he made the decisions that he made. But then with this whole, because this is how interconnected this game is, with this whole theme of family, and this budding romance that you see, and you see the romance come to fruition through N and his history and how he wants to hold on to that. But you also see how he comes to the point where he even denies his family, his son, so that he can pursue a life within the endless now, which is where this game takes place, so that he can be together with M, with this other version of Mio. I mean, it is so masterfully done of how all these threads come together throughout different points in the story, that is not it's not even necessarily kind of the main plot. It is the story of this character that is also, in a way, your main character. And so you understand why, because you've walked with him and beside Mio, and you see this budding romance that they don't even understand as romance until they see families and get a glimpse of what romance can be. I'm failing to come up with the proper adjectives outside of masterful. The way that they thread these themes throughout the course of the game, that when it uncovers and just kind of blooms in front of you, it hits so hard, both in its beauty of the goodness of romance, like true romance, not sexual attraction, not pure sexual attraction. Obviously sexual attraction is a part of romance.
Basically.
Right. None
Or
of that was
thereof.
so prevalent in the second game.
Right. Yeah.
It is a, like, the romance buds devoid of even the possibility of sexual reproduction. Like, that's not even on the table, but it's this friendship that grows deeper. They don't understand what it is until they see characters that can actually express that in the marriage relationship. Yeah.
And that's exactly why I brought up the cinematography at the beginning, because rewatching the scene right before we recorded and seeing how that plays out, it's like you have the couple that they see after they see the baby holding hands, and can't remember her name, the one lady who's giving them the tour. She's talking about this is what humans are naturally supposed to be doing. We are born defenseless, we grow up, we find our spouse, we have more children, and we eventually die and return to the earth. Pretty biblical understanding of what you're supposed to be doing. And as they are showing, kind of they show it front and center, this couple holding hands, and then the way the camera switches to where you can see them kind of kissing a little bit off frame, but to the point where they don't actually have to show it, because video games haven't mastered what kissing is supposed to look like, because it always looks weird. But
yeah,
you can see right then it does a quick little cut between Noah and Mio as they're looking, and what their personal reaction is. They don't show any other characters, but those two specifically really cut between the two really quickly, and you can see that completely visually, that's the point where they realize, oh, that's what I'm feeling for this other character. Oh, okay, now everything is making sense. Again, the visual storytelling, this is masterful, just beautiful. Again, if I were playing this in Japanese and I had no idea what was going on, I feel like I could figure it out right then and there. Oh, these two like each other, and now they're understanding what the actual root of that is.
Yeah, man, which again causes N to make the decisions that he makes of holding on and holding on to this relationship, because he's lived multiple lives where he can't, for one reason or another, whether it's through war or whatever it is, that they end up being ripped apart. And so he realizes that he can't, that in order to preserve the life, he's offered, this magnificent power, but ends up giving up everything. He destroys the city, in order to become N, in order to become the part of Mobius. And Mio even talks about, or excuse me, M talks about how he's not the person that he once was. He ends up destroying himself in his pursuit of this relationship, which ends up destroying the relationship itself. And I mean, we've talked about it just personally, but the whole scene with his son is
Well, going back a little bit, what you see is that you see this version of Noah before he became N, and this version of Mio before she became M, the antagonist. You see in this amazing cutscene. I don't know if it was 90 minutes or not. I don't know if that's hyperbole, but it's a really long cutscene explaining, okay, these are these two characters and this is exactly what happened to them,
Mhm.
just so there's no confusion here. And you see such a wonderful, quick portrayal of these two getting to the point where they like get married and they have their
Mhm.
child, and then you see Mio ending up dying, like very, this is like the cultural touchstone that people would understand, like very much reminiscent of that first like what 10 minutes of the movie Up,
Yeah.
where they're
Yeah.
showing like the entire married life of these two characters and the tragedies that they face. Same deal here. And gosh, as a dad, as a husband, seeing that portrayed in a way from the perspective of the dad and husband,
Mhm.
because a lot of our media today usually takes like the perspective of the female,
Mhm.
and think about like the Twilight movies or anything like that. Romance is told from the perspective of the female, like that's the hallmark like movie industry. But this
Yeah.
one is told from the perspective of the man in the relationship and the duties that he feels towards his wife, towards his
Mm.
son, and what he has or what he feels like he has to do after his wife passes, and just the utter heartbreak that he is experiencing.
Yeah.
Like, we can criticize, the fact that he's an antagonist all we want. We can criticize his choices, but is there a single man alive that in a similar situation wouldn't be tempted to do the exact same thing that he did?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
even at the expense of his son, like who wouldn't, like what man wouldn't feel that emotional, I don't want to say trauma, but that emotional shattering
Mhm.
of their very soul, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
It's
man.
it's reminiscent of like and I don't mean to be too hyperbolic, but to me it's reminiscent of Paradise Lost, in where you see Adam making that decision of Eve has, eaten of this fruit, and do I love her, and am I going to continue to be with her, or am I going to reject her and choose this now, whether or not that actually happened. But anyways, within
Mhm.
Paradise Lost, you see that very deliberate choice on Adam's part of, no, I'm going to be with Eve and I'm going to value her over what God has said. And that, yeah, you see that here with N of, he values M over anyone and anything else. Even yeah, to the point of destroying the city, of
Mhm.
losing his, son in the process, of losing himself in the process as well. Um, and I think it's all the more impactful because it could be you. It could be the character,
Mhm.
Noah, that you've been with for hours and hours and hours up to this point. So not only do you just sympathize with, not just, but not only do you sympathize with him on the level of husband, father of husband, but also like on the level of you you have been experiencing this, and like this is the
Mhm.
crossroads that you've come to. So it's just so, yeah, it's done so well in such a unique way that I haven't seen before, that has such a great
Right.
payoff.
Mhm.
um
Especially,
man.
and I didn't even make these connections until now, until you like mentioned the fact that he is not naturally a leader, but he is forced in that leadership position.
Mhm.
As your character grows, you go from this really passive kind of personality who's kind of like not wanting to take the leadership role, and he eventually does, have to take up that mantle of leadership.
Mhm.
But now that I'm thinking like, and then he gets the revelation that as the leader of his family, his leadership completely failed
Yeah.
in a sense, because
Mm.
it's like another part of his soul, I guess is how they explain it. It's like his soul is like ripped into two and everything. And so
Mhm.
while he himself is out of the reincarnation cycle, he's put back into it, like part of his soul does, et cetera, that sort of thing. It's like, I didn't even think about that until now. But it's like now he's seeing the result of the fact that he has to become a leader, but now he knows that he has failed completely as a leader.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Layers and
It's
layers.
good. It's good. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And not in just the sense of, oh, there's so many different interpretations, that it could have, but it's like know the layers of these kind of recurring themes that, again, they're recurring, and we're only hitting on a few of them here tonight, but you see shades of them all throughout the different antagonists that you fight, the different Mobius characters and things like that, the reasons why they made their decisions. They're not all as well written, but well, I mean, none of them are as well written, I think, as N, but they are they're all grappling with these similar things of like, if this is what life is, and if I have the possibility to get outside of it or get what I want, then what are you willing to do in order for that to happen? And that's done through this admittedly technobabble reason of worlds converging and resets and all that. Like, yeah, that stuff is convoluted and crazy, but even with all that craziness going on, they still manage to tie these threads to each other, if that makes sense. Whereas I know I don't mean to just bash this game constantly, but whereas you brought up something like Death Stranding, which I would say, if this is if this is like the Sistine Chapel of artwork, I would say Death Stranding is more of an abstract art piece, where a lot of the pieces don't actually fit together. Like, it's much more stare into this and see if it kind of makes sense, where there is a meaning, but it's kind of shrouded in different things and it doesn't really kind of fit together. Whereas I think this one actually fits together quite a bit more. And some of the more out, kind of convoluted science fiction stuff is there to serve some of these deeper themes. It's not kind of the main point.
Which is explained more in the future reading DLC.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't even have like the full kind of proper perspective. But I will say, again, as I've kind of prepared for this episode, I've learned a lot more that I didn't pick up on. So a lot of the again, technobabble and stuff that I didn't understand, because even frankly, the end of this game does not resolve a lot of the problems within the excuse me, problem, not narrative problem. I mean problem in terms of the like the plot, the what the antagonists were. You mentioned how Mobius is kind of explained in Future Redeemed, so that's helpful. But it's like, I didn't even recognize that when I finished the game. I was just, kind of the two worlds kind of resetting and being separate. That was where the game ends. And it's like, this is a very satisfying, bittersweet. Certainly, the end of the game is bittersweet. Makes you feel things. But it's satisfying. And so I didn't even notice. Oh, yeah, I guess I do still have a lot of questions, and I still don't understand a lot of this stuff. That's becoming clearer as I'm looking more into it, but also that, frankly, has not been answered yet. Mm-hmm. And might be where the series goes next. We'll see. But I mean, with as good as this one is, and my understanding is that it is actually sold pretty well. I don't think the third has sold as well as the second. I could be wrong on that. But maybe I could just pull up some sales numbers or something along those lines. But I don't see any reason why. Now, I believe that the creators of these games have said that this like is meant to be seen as a trilogy, and so they're like, future games would consist of like a separate set or a separate series, if that makes sense. Maybe not full on series, but like Xenoblade 4 will be very different than 1, 2, and 3. Although, even if they do say that, I mean, the way that these games, even from Xenogears, like you talked about, it seems as though there's connective tissue that may, pay off kind of in the future. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, as of March 2023, it sold nearly 2 million copies. So, like, within the first, 8 months of the game's release?
Yeah, that's
pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and they're not Square Enix, so they don't need like 20 billion copies of a game to sell to be considered successful.
Which is absolutely insane because of the breadth, the scope of this world. That said, it's also on Switch, and so I understand. Monolith Soft are magicians. I don't understand how.
Absolute wizards. How they? Oh my gosh, yeah. how they took Xenoblade Chronicles X and cut the file size in half while making the game visually like 20 times better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They've learned a thing or two over the years. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm on board for whatever's next. We shall see. Yeah, especially after I feel on the one hand, it's like, man, whatever you want to do, like, go for it. On the other hand, I'm like, can anything be as good as this? Can any game be as good as this game in a
Yeah.
certain sense?
And I don't know, like, personally, I don't think they'll continue Xenoblade itself as the franchise.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we've gone from Gears to Saga to Blade. I have to imagine they're trying to make like a fourth pillar like game series after this, whether it's a trilogy or not. They had so much planned for Xenogears that they didn't get to realize.
Right.
They had so much planned for Xenosaga that they didn't get to realize because of just the way things are. Nintendo has basically just written them a blank check and just said, please just make Xenoblade or whatever you want to do from here on out. And please help us with our other games because you guys are the best and we are the worst. And, you like actually can break physical laws with the way that you are, or like, not just physical, like, physical spatial laws with the way that you can compress your games into such like amazing file sizes. Please help us. So I don't know. I really don't think they can do anything with Xenoblade at this point. It's been a series, what was it, like 12, 13 years in the making? Because Xenoblade 1 came, 2010?
2010.
Or so?
Yep.
And Xenoblade 2 was like 2017 or 2016? Or 2017, because it was one of the Switch like near launch titles, was it, like within the first year?
Yeah.
And then Xenoblade 3 was 2022. I just feel like they're probably done with that because, again, it's Answered and Future Redeemed. Like, they really... Or, is it Future Redeemed? The other one.
Yeah. Future,
this one.
Oh, Future Connected.
Future
right?
Connected, okay.
Which one is which?
I don't know, because you have the first... Future Redeemed. Okay, yeah. That's this one. Future Redeemed. They answer so much.
Okay.
So much in that, piddly 20 hours of JRPG content that I don't really have any other questions at this point. I feel like they have resolved Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, and Xenoblade 3. Like, I honestly cannot think of anything that we would really want to know more about. It's bizarre to say that. It's just like, this game series is so well done. It's so thoughtfully, I don't even want to say planned out, because I highly doubt they actually had the plan for Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade 3 when they made number 1.
Yeah.
But they were able to pivot so well into what they wanted to tell. And I feel like I remember hearing like the creator of the game, he's like, yeah, I think we told their story. I think we actually we actually set out. This is the first time we've ever been able to actually finish what we started.
Right.
And he feels particularly proud about that. And at this point, it's kind of like how Godzilla -1 just made $20 bajillion, and now the director is flying all over the world meeting celebrities, and everybody's basically giving him a blank check to do whatever he wants now because he was able to like multiply his budget by like a series of 1,000, basically.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see with Monolith Soft. Like, if they want to stick with Nintendo, great. Awesome. I highly support that. If they want to branch out to other companies, great. But I just want to see where they go next, because to hit this height of emotional storytelling, within the third entry, but even the first two games had some great points that they made and some great scenes that, despite all the flaws in Xenoblade 2, like, there were some really good things that happened in that game that...
Yes, that
like,
are just hard to talk about because of all the garbage that's in the game also. I can't recommend the game, but I really like the game. Dang it.
Yeah. And even there were certain things in Xenoblade 1 as well that kind of had similar things going on with it. And certain attire, you might say.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That even my wife was just like, what is this game you're playing? And I'm like, trust me, it can get worse.
Oh, gosh.
So, but yeah, I just want to see what they do next. If they want to make a Xenoblade 4, great. I don't know if there's a story to tell outside of what they've already answered. Like, they did Future Redeemed. Like, that story is done.
Okay.
But I like I said, I want to see where they go next.
Man. Got to finish that game then.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Then a question that I have for you, because I feel like, the first game, Xenoblade Chronicles, it was originally going to be called Monado. It very much is about the blade because of what the blade is. I felt like the second game, it was kind of shoehorned in that, yes, they were these special keys. They were, part of the reconstruction of the computer system of whatever. But I felt like that was more tangential. It felt to me more like it was kind of shoehorned. Oh yeah, we need to make these swords special, so this is what they're going to be.
Yeah,
you could
swords are chicks.
Disagree, right? Yeah, right. But for Xenoblade 3, I felt even more so of like, yes, there's this lucky 7, and yes, like it's needed, but it's in the background. Like it barely comes up throughout the course of the game. Does Future Redeemed put that front and center anymore? Does it make it more about the blade itself?
That question will be answered in the Future Redeemed DLC.
Okay, cool.
There is... Okay, I can't spoil this.
Yeah.
But you will be very interested in seeing, and again, I have kind of the base game and the DLC kind of intertwined in my mind.
Yeah.
So I could be thinking of things that happened in the base game, but I don't want to say it because it could be a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
Did they explain in the base game where the sword came from?
They explained that it was given to Noah by the Napon. What's his name? Riku?
Riku.
Is it? Yeah, because it's
the second
Ricky
best
in the first
Riku
one.
in video games, by the way.
The second best.
That's a Kingdom
Kingdom
Hearts,
Hearts
but,
fan. Yeah. I know him from Chain of Memories, so he was major antagonist in that one. Anyways, so I know that he got it from Riku, but where Riku got it from, don't know. Riku's just like a total Giga Chad, and makes like the stuff that you need. Like that's just it. You need it, Riku can make it because he's wise one. So, but I don't recall them ever like explaining how he got it, what its importance is outside of they need it at the end, unlock stuff, and defeat enemy. Like only the sword could do it, but it's kind of, it never felt like it was really a big deal. I mean, it is it feels more like a MacGuffin is what I'm trying to say, more so than something that was actually super.
I'm doing some wiki diving just to make sure I'm not going to say anything wrong here.
Okay.
Just real quick.
Okay.
Yes, you will be very interested in playing Future Redeemed.
Okay. The reason I ask too is just because you're talking about, are they going to continue the Xenoblade Chronicles or start something new? Is I felt that the blade part of Xenoblade got less and less important as the series goes down. So why even continue Xenoblade? Why not make it, I don't know, whatever they're centered around, whatever their focus is going to be for the next.
And I would agree with you. Like, even though I know what happens with the sword, it is not as important as like the Monado at all. So yeah, it's definitely downplayed. I just really want to know what they're going to do next.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they've announced anything. I don't think there's been any rumors, but they have been quiet for years.
They have.
Like, this DLC came out in 2023, and it has been 2 years since then. And we knew nothing about Xenoblade 3 until, like you said, a couple months before it's released. So they could have an entirely like brand new trilogy actually planned out from beginning to end. And I think that would be the strength of them basically having like Nintendo money. Like, if Nintendo is willing to finance them, and now that we have the Switch 2 for another, 6 to 8 years potentially?
Right.
Like, what they could potentially do.
Man.
The storytelling possibilities.
Yeah.
Like, this is the worst it's going to get because, like, they can only improve from here, I feel like. I can't see them, I don't know, taking a complete nosedive unless they get super cocky.
Yeah, but the only problem though, what's going to be complete garbage is that they're going to sell the game for $80 now that it's on Switch 2. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
I think they might go down.
You're talking to the man who bought a Switch 2 purely for Bravely Default. Like,
and even Bravely Default, it's only $40. It's not that bad. No, I'm kidding around. I'm poking fun at some of the people. And don't get me wrong, I don't like paying $80 for a game. If you were to ask $100 for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, totally worth it.
Yeah.
So,
I'd
like
probably
Xenoblade
spend
Chronicles 3,
150.
yeah, it's one of those games that's actually worth that. And I mentioned it earlier of like, I feel like this game could be a platform and you could tell so many different stories on it. And it's because of the depth, both the length and the depth of this game.
Mhm.
It's like when Tears of the Kingdom was released for $70. It's like, I don't want to pay that, but I understand why it is. You get enough game in there, and yeah, it's worth it. I think
Yeah.
this is another one of those games that's like you could totally charge more, and it's worth it. Now, should they, in terms of business decisions, probably not, because it's not a super well known property. It's more of a niche game, but dang it, it is worth it. So
Please,
shouldn't be.
Please, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Continue
Yeah.
financing Monolith off until the day I die.
Yeah, man, good stuff. Well, awesome. Well, dude, we've been talking for 2 hours just on the game alone, and we've already cut a bunch of stuff that we were planning on talking about.
Can we
Yes.
please talk about the ending though?
Yeah.
We got to talk about the ending, okay?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have much to say about it, but I have a lot to say about it.
Okay.
I really appreciate that this ending was willing to. Some people might say it's cheap. Some people might say, "Oh, it's a stupid ending because everything kind of in a sense doesn't matter." They might say because of the way what happens. So basically, is what happens. You beat the big bad, and you discover a way to separate the worlds again. The worlds were joined, and now they need to separate.
Yep.
And that could functionally mean that none of these characters will actually remember what happened to them. Like that's pretty much spelled out exactly. Like these characters will not remember. A lot of people hate like the Alice in Wonderland ending because it's basically just all a dream, or at least it's presented like it's all a dream. And I get that, storytelling wise, when you do like it's all a dream, or you push the reset button and everything, it can feel kind of cheap. But what I like about this game in particular is that the characters actually have to wrestle with that very notion. The fact that we are going to forget each other in a sense, but we are going to do everything we can to make sure that we crystallize our memories to the point where it's just like we are going to work as hard as we can so that we do not forget, and that our souls have been one at one point, through the Ouroboros form. And while we are going to be separated, we are still going to be with each other. A part of us will still exist within the other person. And as the worlds are separating, just seeing that the way that they are, because they're like running and they're waving at each other as the worlds are pulling apart.
Yeah.
And gosh, they just know how to pull at the heartstrings. I think that was just, it feels like a very Asian style game in the way that it ends in like a very bittersweet moment. A lot of like Ghibli movies are similar. Like a lot of them end in a bittersweet way. A lot of anime do the same thing, but this one in particular, I think does a better job at it because of how much time you actually do spend with these characters and how often like it comes up that yes, while you may not remember this did happen. It is still a valid thing that happened to you, and a part of your soul has lived with this experience, and so it will stay with you, for the rest of your life. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm okay with the more open-endedness of the ending. I did find it satisfying. And I guess I suppose my focus was more on that part that you're talking about, that more bittersweet part of the worlds pulling apart. And then they start running towards each other. I'm just like, yeah. And it's funny because it is kind of like the music, it's a vocal track in the background. It's a little more like pop music. Now that you mention it, it is kind of like the ending of Japanese movies that I've seen where they play, the ending song usually is vocalized for one reason or another. But man, it's not, I'm trying to think of the right word, because it is subtle enough to where it doesn't bash you over the head, but it is very clear what the characters are feeling. In a lesser game, they would just be, like holding each other, or, falling down and crying or something like that. But there was even like the hesitation of like, should I show how much I'm gonna miss this person? Yeah, I'm gonna go for it, and then just the running towards each other. Like it was just done so well in a way that's like, okay, of course it's gonna end that way, but they still like managed to nail it to where, ugh, you're making me feel again. Dang it. I thought I was a man. I didn't think I had feelings. For like the 6th time in this game already. So that was the part that I kind of focused on. And then, it goes back to the beginning and it's like, oh yeah, for me, my experience with that part was like, oh yeah, that's how this game started.
Right. Yeah.
And then
this entire game took place within 1 second.
Yeah. And it was the confusion of, oh, is it? Yeah, I guess it is kind of like resetting from that point. Interesting, And again, I was totally okay with the open-ended nature. I didn't take it as the game was saying you absolutely are going to forget or you absolutely are going to remember. It was the very real possibility of forgetting and the character saying it is worth it.
Yeah.
Like, so that we don't have to, become what the antagonists had become. So, I was perfectly fine with the ending. So,
and again, Future Redeemed.
Yeah.
Really does some great stuff with this.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, okay. That contextualizes this so much better now.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, even in the little bit that I've played, because it doesn't, you don't know exactly where in the timeline it takes place. That kind of gradually gets taught to you, so I don't even know at this point where it is exactly. Although some of the characters, the lineage of some of the characters, and so it has to, be later, sort of, kind of. But it did bring up questions. It did make me realize I had more questions that were not answered in the main game. In terms of like, oh, so what does life look like now that there is no infinite now, right? Is that what it's called? The infinite now?
Eternal now.
Eternal now.
Endless now. Endless now.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so now that that's broken, like, what does life look? Are they still at battle? Like, are they still? Is it still only a 10-year lifespan? Like what parts of that were Mobius and what parts of that were not? I don't know.
So are you saying you don't know when this story takes place within the timeline of the original game?
I'm not sure yet of Future Redeemed. But it made me realize I don't know what life was like before the Endless Now. Like what parts that you experience during the main game are because of the Endless Now and what parts are not. Like what is the real nature of the world?
All I can say is interesting.
Yeah.
Keep me updated on that because I'm thinking, I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But there is a reveal of something that doesn't directly answer your question, but the implications of such are pretty obvious. And then you're going to be like, oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
cool.
And that's the kind of game this is.
Right. Exactly. Well, and I think it's to its credit as well is it didn't make it so obvious that I felt like, oh, well, it ended, but I still have so many more questions. Because sometimes there's media that I've experienced that has been that way, where it's like, yeah, I mean, it's a good ending, but it's still like I'm left with so much more. Whereas that was kind of washed away, but also there wasn't really a possibility of knowing within the context of the game. Because then after that, it's just a scene of, hey, Poppy pops out. She was the machine that was gathering data on people. And then you get a picture of
stuff. Yeah.
Of stuff. Of
junk.
Of people who are older from the second game. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. And then so many more questions are answered in the DLC. So many questions you don't even actually know to ask.
Yeah.
I would even say it's like, something will pop up in the DLC, and you'll be like, wait a minute, that relates back to this. I didn't have a question about this, but now I have a question. Oh, now you're going to answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the most, bizarre, almost like a checklist. Like they went down a checklist. Do we want to answer this? Yeah, let's make sure we answer this. Let's go. Okay. Did this actually happen? Well, let's just make sure that they understand what actually happened here.
So it sounds like it accomplishes what the answer DLC for Persona 3 FES attempts and utterly fails to do.
1000%. Yes. Yeah.
Which is funny because I feel in my mind, we recorded our Persona 3 Reload episode. I feel like it wasn't too much longer after I finished Xenoblade 3. I could be misremembering. But I feel like there's a lot of parallels with these games as well, just in the value of life and some of the questions that it tackles, even though they're extremely different games. I think they're also very well written and well done, even if this one is much better in a number of ways.
Yeah. While I feel like Persona 3 does a great job of it, it feels content to allow there to be more mystery and maybe some unresolved questions that are kind of frustrating to the viewer. And I think that kind of plays to the game's strength. I think this game being such a hopefully like optimistic game, even amongst the bittersweet nature of it, I felt like it had like a duty to answer some of those questions.
Okay.
For the sake of the player. Persona 3 is okay with not answering it because that's just the kind of game it is. But this game being the way it is, it kind of necessitated like, there are some things we should probably answer so that it will elevate our themes a lot better.
Gotcha. Oh man. I want to just start playing it now. And that's what it was. I played Persona 3 Reload right after. I started it right after finishing Xenoblade 3. That's what it was. That was part of the connection as well. Because I remember even the jarring nature of like Xenoblade 3 feels very grounded in its characters, and the opening to Persona 3, while I love that game, it is much more cartoony in that, there's a kid walking down the street and he's seeing bloody coffins, and he's freaked out, but like he's just walking to his destination. Like that would not, like the characters would flip out in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 like when they see something out of the ordinary. So anyways, neither here nor there.
Which is weird because one takes place in a fantasy world and one takes place in the real world, and they kind of flip that, like, script a little bit.
Yup. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Well, we did have one person, and you know what? We typically do shout outs. I'd like to shout out Jono in the Discord. We did reach out just last night, so it's not like we gave anyone any time to ask questions. But we reached out in the Discord if there was any input that anyone would have for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So I'd like to just read what John had to say. He said, even though he hasn't played the game, but he knows a lot about it. He says, I'm increasingly convinced that Z's desire to create a world of the endless now resonates deeply with our culture's constant yearning to revisit the past or linger in nostalgia in sequels. Even character designs in media rarely evolve beyond their original versions. In truth, many players and people in general want exactly what Z offers, just shaped in their own image. Now, I realize we have not talked about, this is me talking now. I realize we have not talked about even who Z is. But he's the creator of Mobius, basically. And that's my understanding. You might have something, you might know more than me because of the DLC. But he's
no comment.
But he's the leader of Mobius. He seems to be the one with all the power to create and to offer people this ability to become a part of Mobius. And so he ostensibly creates this endless now. He's the one taking control of taking advantage of this reset, the failure, and the origin machine in order to create the endless now for everyone to exist in. So that's what John is saying, is that this idea, if we could just live now forever, he sees that in different things, in the nostalgia that some of us live in, which is very interesting because I do feel as though nostalgia is stronger for our generation and younger than it had been in the past in a lot of ways. Especially for pop culture, I suppose is what I'm saying. You can see boomer nostalgia in the assumption that the world is as it always has been for their generation. But I think with our generation and younger, particularly nostalgia for pop culture is very strong in ways that it hasn't been in previous generations. So that's an interesting observation as well. So John continues. He says, the world the story initially presents also feels like a meta critique of the typical game loop. You start small, you grow, you kill or be killed, and then you start again. And he says, while I haven't played Xenoblade 3 myself, these ideas challenge how I approach gaming. They encourage me to seek out games with genuine meaning, or if I do engage in the grind of the loop, to do so very intentionally and within time limits. So I think that's a great kind of application of the themes in this game, kind of pulling it out of the game. And then what does it have to say with my life as well? I think that's a good question to ask. Like, in what ways do we not accept the passage of time? Right. The fact that, something that I wrestle with too in my mid 30s is that I've had this mindset of constant growth for my life, of like, I always have the ability to get better. And as I age, I realize, I talked about, pain in my arm, in my wrist and my thumb and stuff like that. And I'm realizing just the typical, the limits of the human body as I get older, of maybe I shouldn't assume that I can always get better. Maybe just maintaining is really what is what I can attain to at this moment. So while I typically want to challenge myself of, I'll lose this weight and I'll gain this muscle, it's like maybe maintenance is actually a better goal, because what it would take to actually progress is much more than I'm actually willing to pay with my current responsibilities and as my body continues to deteriorate. So anyways, it definitely leaves me with some thoughts of like, in what areas in my own life am I not willing to give up what I assume to be right now? Am I holding too closely or too strongly onto the things that I want to have and I want to keep in my grasp right now? And as Christians, clearly we serve a sovereign God, and so we shouldn't be afraid to let go of things that we own, knowing that they were never really ours in the first place. So I think it's even more impactful, honestly, that theme as a Christian, because we don't simply just let go and allow the passage of time to flow. We let go and offer that up to the Lord, knowing that He has good plans for us. So, yeah, it's crazy that well, I don't mean this in a derogatory way. It's crazy that a bunch of pagans created this game, because it has some really good themes.
A bunch of
stuff.
Pagan anime lovers. Oh my
Right?
goodness.
Yes.
The degenerates of society.
Right? Exactly. And I lap it up. Dang it. It does blow my mind that I've played all of these games in the Xenoblade series, because all of them have been very long games. And it's not like up until this third one, and maybe with the second, it was there a bit, because the highs of the second are really high. It's just that there's so many lows. I wouldn't say that this series is like one of my top series ever, but I did enjoy them enough to, I want to play the next one, kind of a thing. 2, it was kind of pushing up there, but then 3 is just like, okay, you won me over. Like, dang it. And then the fact that 1 and 2 that actually have so much to do with how this one finishes, like they actually are much more intertwined than I thought they were. It's like, dang it, man, you got me. I love it.
And so that leads me to my final question for you.
Yes.
Nate's not here.
Yes.
And he shouldn't be listening to the end of this podcast.
That's
he
right.
should not be at this point whatsoever.
No.
So we can talk. Nate. We can talk freely. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How hard are you going to be pushing for this, for the top 100 list?
Okay. So it depends on how much Nate actually truly enjoys the game. I think there are a number of things about the game that he's going to really get into. Just knowing him, he's going to tweak. He's going to try the different jobs and dig into that. I do think that the amount of time that it takes to play through the game is going to be a bit of a hurdle. so that might be more difficult. But I do think he's overall going to enjoy the game. And I do think, yeah, he likes slice of life anime. So I think the stuff that hits hard in this game is going to hit him pretty hard. So I think he's going to enjoy it. It just depends. So the way that I see the top 100 is that even games that I absolutely love, I'm not one that's like, oh, this needs to be top 5 for our top 100 list. The way that I see it is like, if I absolutely love it, it's going to be in the top 50 because it's like half and half kind of a thing. So how hard am I going to push? Yeah, it really depends. I don't want it to go any lower than 25 on our list. I can't remember where it is, even though we literally just did an episode about this a couple days ago. It's on there pretty high. Like, in my estimation, it is very high on our list for a game that he has not played. And saying that, I mean, I think The Last of Us is super high on our list too, and I've never played that one, even though it's not for lack of trying. But
it's just boring. I get it. I totally get it. Yeah,
that's not what I'm trying to say. It's
that's what I'm trying to say.
It destroyed my consoles. Sort of, kind of. My consoles were destroyed, but yeah. So yeah. Do I want, because I see it as a top 10 game for me. So, but where we have it on the list right now is it is 25. Okay. And that might have changed a little bit. I'm looking at an older version of the list. So I'm content with it being there for now. I will be heartbroken if Nate doesn't like the game or is just kind of, yeah, it was good. So
you affected his personality very well there. Yeah, it was good. All right, here's my prediction.
Yes.
Mark it. Whatever this is releasing. Mid-July. Okay. Mark it. Nate is going to absolutely devour this game in every way, shape, and form. The story is going to make him cry. He will actually be bawling big man tears from it. I think there's not a snowball's chance in hell that this does not get any lower than the top 10. It should be within the top 10 once he finishes playing it. Like, he talks about certain types of games being Nate bait, and he's the guy who kind of hate played 120 hours of Breath of the Wild just so that he could have an opinion on it that was extremely informed. And he even kind of came around on that one. This is a game that is, I think you said it earlier, it's kind of like a, not unassuming, but it's kind of like a sleeper hit of some sort. I can't remember the exact term that you used at the beginning. It flew under the radar, and because it doesn't have that kind of notoriety, I think he is way more open to playing it, especially after hearing us gush in the non-spoiler section. I think it's going to raise up on his list a little bit more. If this does not end up in the top 10, then I will question everything about my life.
Well, I think especially too what we do with this podcast in trying to pick apart, and we are very kind of story based. Obviously, mechanics play a big part, and obviously that plays a big part in a lot of our list. Hollow Knight, Hades, the games that are way up there, that aren't super story heavy but have good stories. It's just not the main focus of the game. But I feel like a lot of what we end up talking about on this podcast is stories and the combination and how that plays into the mechanics of video games and things like that. So I think on that alone, just the good writing. We didn't even touch on necessarily the voice acting itself, which is actually good in this game.
Amazing.
It's surprisingly, it's not garbage. And I mean, generally they are for Xenoblade games. Yeah, outside of just annoying things said over and over again, I think of the first game. But it's Rhine time, baby.
Or Fiona, the entire character of Fiona. Fiona, right?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah.
Her voice.
Is it Fiona or Fiora?
Fiora.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Not the lady from Shrek. Got it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The princess, the ogre.
Yes.
Anyways, yeah. So, but that's another rabbit trail. And frankly, we just don't have time to go down that because this has been quite a beefy conversation already. And again, we're cutting out stuff that we had planned to talk about, which is okay. We've got more time in the future. It's hard to condense down, 90 hours
You
of
might say our
content.
future will be redeemed when we talk about the
Ooh.
DLC within the next 6 months. 'Cause
Heyo.
I guarantee Josh is going to be itching to get back on the microphone and be
Mm,
like, we have to talk about this.
yeah. I'm almost immediately did that after playing a bit last night, and seeing the and having the protagonists of previous games come into my party. I'm just like, what? And seeing that they are very different than they had been in the previous games. I'm like, what is going on? This is not
Even
what I
more
expected.
Giga Chad Kings than they were before.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
So,
and there's something else that happens too. I just remembered it.
oh,
Okay. I can't. Oh, man.
okay. All right.
Both
Well,
of those protagonists get some
mhm,
really interesting stories.
cool. Yeah.
You're going to
Nice.
be YouTube deep diving for the next 24 hours
I'm,
after finishing it.
it's clear that stuff has happened, when they show up. I will say that they are war torn. I'll
Mhm.
put it that way. They bear marks on their bodies of some of the battles that they have fought. And
Yep.
so it's already opening questions. So, but anyways, I think that unless there's anything in particular that you need to get off your chest before we end it, I think it's a good place to stop.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good, guys.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's what you call adequate.
Mm-hmm. I guess since we're still in the spoiler section, I'll say this because it's not to everyone, is that I legitimately, for a good month after playing this game, was like, is this my favorite game of all time? Like, I don't even know, because as I compare it, it's so much deeper and richer than the games that I say are my favorite games of all time. Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, you know, um, it's better in a lot of ways. It tells stories that they couldn't tell back then, just with the grand scope of this game. So is it my favorite game of all time? And right now it's not there, simply because, because of the scope. I think as I think about Chrono Trigger more and more, I think it is perfect in what it sets out to do. What it sets out to do is much smaller than what this game sets out to do. So that's my answer. But legitimately, I was wrestling with so what does he even mean? What is my criteria now? Because I really like this game. And it's not that the mechanics were the most, fun, that I was itching to get into another battle, something like that. It's the overall package, and it's the gradual kind of unveiling or revealing of everything, because it wasn't my favorite game of all time, 20 hours in, even 50 hours in. It's like, yeah, this is really good. But man, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
so
I would say the last thing, it's like everybody goes through this type of thing. It's like comparing the Lord of the Rings, the entire trilogy of books and the entire trilogy of movies, to literally anything else. Are
mhm,
there single movies that are just really, really well done and maybe stick with you and have an emotional impact on you that you haven't seen before? Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of movies like that. But is it a Lord of the Rings? It's like an entire does it belong on a list? Absolutely.
mhm,
100%. It is the pinnacle of not just literature, but also the pinnacle of movie trilogy. So it's
mm,
in my mind, that's kind of where Xenoblade Chronicles has gotten to.
mhm,
You have a really good strong start. You got kind of a middling that's it's good, but there's some things in there that's just kind of I'm not sure.
yeah.
The Two Towers, it could be a rough one. It's
Yeah.
not usually near people's top book or top film,
Mhm,
honestly. But then you have the Return of the King, and that's Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
mm.
It is the Return of the King. Many kings, Giga Chad Kings, you might say. And trying to compare it to a
Nice.
different game or different series is almost impossible, because it does what it does so well, and it actually manages to stick the landing. There is
Yeah.
nothing in fiction quite like sticking a landing. Maybe it's a little bit rough to get to that point. Maybe you have to take some of the rough edges off of it and deal with that. But when it sticks that landing, there's nothing more satisfying.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned at the beginning, I think this is a top 5 game for me,
Yeah.
without a doubt. and it could be a top 3 game. I haven't really divvied through my own personal list, but again, I have not had many good gaming experiences over the last decade outside of like 2 or 3 really solid games. A lot of the other stuff is kind of like, okay, yeah, this is good. It's like going to see a B grade popcorn flick or something like that,
Sure.
or just
Yeah.
reading like a pulp novel of some sort. That's like, oh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
But this game that we've been talking about for 2.5 hours now,
Right.
it hits you in just the right spot. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I think Nate's gonna love it. He better play it at some point.
Yeah. It's happening. I can tell you he will be playing it sooner rather than later. That's all I'll say about that.
Good.
Yeah. So awesome, man. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking so much time to talk about. And again, I know I've said this multiple times already, but I feel like there's so much more to talk about this game. But I do think we hit kind of the high parts, the kind of the biggest notes, the things that stuck out to us the most in the game. But thank you for your time, for making time. Thank you for giving me the push to play this game, to play one of my favorite games of all time. Like, it really was, your recommendation that gave me that bigger push. Cause again, even though I did enjoy the second game, it's like, it's rough in parts. There was a lot of that game that I did not want to be seen playing.
Yeah.
Put it that way,
Yes.
Which again makes the game really hard to recommend.
Yeah.
But my goodness.
Near impossible.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll talk more after this DLC is completed, because my goodness, the way that you're talking about it makes me think that this game might be my favorite game of all time after I play future. Who knows? Maybe. We'll see where that ends up. But appreciate you, Wes. Thanks for coming on. What is there? Would you like to give any kind of a shout out, or even stuff that you're doing that you'd like anyone obviously you're part of the Play Well Network. You've got Retronym going on, but anything you'd like to highlight or anything you'd like to shout out before we head out?
I mean, just a quick shout out to Nate. You're not listening to this, but it's a shout out to you. I was kind of poking at you a little bit with that Pokemon question that I asked you about how you're feeling about Legends Arceus. And, I was being kind of a butt. And then you answered it in the most sincere and nice way possible. And I'm just like, oh, now I feel like a jerk. So thank you for answering in such a great way. And you're never going to hear this. Maybe 3 years down the road when you finally finish it. And you're like, hey, I'm going to go back and listen to that old episode to see what those knuckleheads are talking about. But yeah, I totally fair answer. I get it.
Yeah.
Good on you, man. Good on you.
You're a real one, Nate. Appreciate you, man. Awesome. Well, guys, if you have thoughts on Xenoblade Chronicles 3, again, there's tons of stuff we didn't cover, but if there are things that really stuck out to you that you want us to discuss further, I'm sure this will be a continuing conversation. Once Nate finishes, we'll have kind of an addendum that's going on. Once I finish the Future Redeemed, I'm sure there'll be some more discussion. I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know. I mean, it might just be boring for the next 15 hours. I'll just be waiting for it to end. But I highly doubt that that's the case. But if you guys have any thoughts, reach out to us. Let us know, and we can kick that stuff around for future episodes. Tons of ways that you can reach out. We've got a whole link tree of different things that you can go to, different social media platforms that we're on. That's really simple. Just go to linktree.com/the Backlog Breakdown. That's also in the description of this video, or the notes in this audio, in the podcast there. Reach out. We want to hear from you. But with that said, Wes, it has been quite the evening, or morning as well, for at least for myself. It's gone on longer, but I mean, what did we expect, really?
I told you I tried to get you in bed by midnight.
Yes,
and I failed you.
But it's been good. It hasn't been filler. It hasn't. We've done. I feel like we've done a good job at a first pass at some of the stuff in this game. So no, I appreciate your time. Thank you for that. Any last words before we close out?
No, just thank you for having me, and I've been bugging you to do this since you finished the game, and I'm just kind of like, hey, we should do an episode about it.
Here.
And then it was like 2 or 3 months ago. I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna have some free time. We should do an episode about this. Yeah, let's actually like schedule this bad boy out, and we did, and it is here. I feel just as fulfilled as we did when we finished the Persona 3 Reload episode. Like, I just feel like we bit off a giant game. We discussed it to death. While there's more that we could discuss, I feel very satisfied with it.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving me the outlet to yell into a microphone about how much I hate Gondor.
We didn't even talk about that. That's hilarious. Because, she's pretty bad. It kind of makes sense of why Shania turned so
I know, right? She is not a villain.
Not really. But
no, 100%. Can't stand that little gremlin.
Can't that's a very good way of putting it. Like, ugh. Do you have to be a good guy? Because, man, you are just the worst. Even the way you treat your mom. Come on. What a turd.
I know. What a brat.
Oh
my gosh.
Anyways, guys, play Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and keep beating down your backlogs, and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.